Must Watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through all the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. I'm your co-host Arturo Zurita, and joining me from the Emerald City, it's Zachary Chevy!
Crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. I don't know if we're going to use those adjectives for Wicked today, but they're the adjectives on my mind. What's going on?
Yeah. As long as you keep your screen on, you can turn the TV off. All of that doesn't matter as we talk about the newest movies of the week. We're talking about some of the biggest ones. Whether you want to be glicked down, whatever those phrases were, they're still supposedly family films. We got Wicked, we got Gladiator, we got some streaming stuff, some new stuff, and sequels that are never going to happen because it turns out John Watts is a mobster, it turns out at the end of the day. Yeah. But we got all that and more here on the Weekend Must Watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through all the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. Zach, the most important question, even beyond the movies, beyond the TV, you had asked it to me. What is the best track on GNX?
I mean, the one that I can't stop listening to is TV Off, and I don't know if it's just like the thrill of hearing Kendrick scream "mustard."
Have you heard all the variations?
I mean, I've seen the tweets and McDonald's adding extra A's to their honey mustard.
The McDonald's one is top 3 in my opinion for sure. Did you see The Pastor?
No, please tell me.
So it was a pastor who decided to say an entire thing just so that he can say, you think we live in a world where you can get what you want your way? You want ketchup? You want mustard? Like the most random way to just get it there. But yeah, I think so far, one of my favorite ones would definitely be the Kendrick Lamar. None of these are even collabs, I guess you could call it, since it's just a mustard packet. Honey mustard, which is my preferred
marketing
dipping sauce of choice for sure. But you saw how bad it got though, right?
What are we talking about?
I mean, after this surprise album came out, there was a lawsuit immediately filed on my way back. They said he was going to do it. I'm a man who likes judging people off their own words, and I think it was his verse that said cease and desist for hoes. Brand spanking new Drake alleges Universal and Spotify falsely inflated Kendrick Lamar disses, and I heard he said he lost some money from it, even though he said we're good. He said no face. He said it was fine. The next saga of this continues. This is a movie in the making. Yeah, like how is it not?
Yeah, I mean the I don't know if it's going to be a movie or just like the new Ryan Murphy series. But like it's certainly going to be something. It is completely dramatic and full of twists and turns, and I just can't wait for the scene where we see Drake after, like, what was it, 27 minutes after when Kendrick dropped after him.
That's the one. Well, what's his name? What's REC Media, the guy who does all the skits? His was the best one of that. We just uploaded it. Let's go out for lunch. Wait. I don't think anything's gonna beat that one. But even then, the fact that one of them is getting into the movies. We got the Kendrick Lamar and what is it, Trey Parker,
Matt Stone thing.
Yeah. So they're doing that stuff. Everything with PG Lang that he's trying to build up. To answer the question that you had asked me first about which is the best track. That's the most playable. I thought it was between that and Hey Now for me because I really like Hey Now. Reincarnated is incredibly written. Last Night, Gloria really stood out to me because you get to the ending of that song, so it recontextualizes everything. That reminded me of some old Eminem songs with the way that it's written.
It feels
Man of the Garden
lineage with the Common song. I used to love HER.
Yes,
which also has that kind of twist at the end.
It's beautiful. So just a really good album in terms of its writing, the bangers on it, all of it's fantastic, and a surprise drop. Beautiful. I like it.
Yeah,
that's all that needs to be said when something's that good.
It definitely helped make our week. I mean, we sent a lot of excited DMs back and forth on the day. That's.
I told Zach I had it playing on every speaker. All different devices. If I had a device in the house and it had access to some music, it was playing that all weekend long. But other than that, we are now in the cold season. It is nippy, it is freezing, and that still hasn't stopped people from. We were kind of debating back and forth. We were looking at it. What the numbers have said. If this isn't the biggest box office weekend of the year, then what could it possibly be? Because we're playing with a twofer here. It's not just this one that's right before Thanksgiving, but all of it is going to bleed into Moana's release next weekend for it to be what I feel should be the most massive one. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, just the carryover from this weekend where Wicked absolutely cleaned up at the box office. It was the third biggest opening weekend for a movie this year, and then also Gladiator getting a huge number behind it. Both of those in their second weekend. Plus,
both of them
Moana,
are
plus
Pastors by Assassins doing pretty good. Good legs, good legs.
Yeah, it legs, it's important at the box office. I mean, I don't know how much Red One will continue to have them, but
that's too much money for Red One right there. That's for sure. They really messed up on that one. They had the Red One globe with the red M&M. I get it, red. Your Santa voice is the yellow one.
Right? It's right there.
Right there. But yeah, this upcoming weekend is going to be pretty crazy. I think they shouldn't fall by a lot. If anything, that's just the precursor numbers. Everyone's seeing it for the first time and everyone coming back for repeat viewings. Not both of them, but one of them crossed 100. Gladiator did what again?
55.
55. Not bad. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for the first one, but if you put it up here. These are the rate.
Yeah, here, let me get you back to the box office.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that's bad. That's a good run for it. I think Gladiator will still be making more money in this counter marketing for the weekend. And 112 is not too shabby. That's the official number after all.
Yeah, which is 1.5 million above Beetlejuice's opening weekend. So a pretty significant number considering, this is the culmination of like over a year's worth of.
That's why I'm thinking it should have been more. Maybe they're not counting the Wednesdays.
Maybe
the Mondays, the pre-screenings, and then on top of that, what week 2 is going to do, I think is going to be way better than Beetlejuice.
Exactly. I bet there's a bunch of people who, probably are getting together with families or going back to hometowns and planning to see
it. A lot of people want to see it again. Yeah. Alina wants to watch it again. And we've got several people who have mentioned that too. But let's get into talking about
shout out to Chase and Olivia, who are probably going to see it again, right?
Easily. But before we actually jump into the movies of the week from Wicked and Gladiator 2, we do have a big shout out to give to the most important members of our Intercut community, and that is the Inner Cutie patrons.
Absolutely. We always have to thank the wonderful people who are supporting our show, whose names are on the screen right now. But in the Academy tier, they are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, May, Ricky, Joe, Wiley, Benji, Matt, Jeremy, and Michael, I guess. And as well as our producer level patrons, Toon, Brandon G, and Josh. A huge thanks to all of them. And a reminder that you too can become a member of the Intercuties by heading over to patreon.com/intercutpod and signing up. Or you can stay right here on YouTube with us and click that join button that is below our videos to join up for as little as $3 a month and support what we do, continue to bring you reviews of new movies and looking out to the latest from the world of entertainment. You can also, by joining up as a member, get access to episodes early. We just recorded a review of Interstellar that'll be out next week for everybody, but it's available right now for patrons of the podcast. You also get access to notes that we take on episodes, the plans for the future of the podcast, and our access to our monthly patron video chats, which is always a fun way for us to get together and talk about movies. Like last month when we all sat around and discussed one of the most interesting movies of the year, Megalopolis. Here's the thing, like we ordinarily rate movies by quality, right? But if we're instead just rating movies by like how much fun they are to talk about, this is the movie of the year. This is the movie of the year.
It's so funny though. I love
that. Put that on the cover of the Blu-ray.
Yeah, what is that?
Do movies have to be good? It's a great question. So our next video chat is happening tonight. Not too late to sign up and come talk about the latest movies. Come get Gladiator with us. Glicked. There we go.
After hours for sure, right there. But
late night.
Depending on which way people go, we might be mixed on these two movies. We may think it's the best weekend of the year so far, as the box office is telling it. Do you have a preference on which one to start with on this Glicked weekend?
Well, Wicked won the box office. Maybe it should get first dibs.
I guess it does deserve first dibs. Wicked, the newest musical adaptation that has been 25 years in the making, bro. Like, I don't know when Wicked came out. I don't know the musical like that. I've spent the entire weekend doing searching up slime tutorials, trying to see what the different incarnations of it are. What I can say right now as we start talking about the movie is I get why people are big fans of it. I think the music is excellent. As someone who has heard the music, obviously in the background, but never really tuned into the story and how it all plays out, the characters, the way that they flip the Wizard of Oz is honestly kind of insane. It's ridiculous. I feel like if they try to do that now, people would be outraged.
Yeah,
and this is monumental to people.
It's the kind of thing where once you see it, it kind of is the blueprint for so many of these like legacy sequels that we get in other franchises, or like, you know, your movies that ask you to reevaluate some character from a previous film. You know, we're about to get like the Lion King Mufasa story from Barry Jenkins, and films like that probably wouldn't exist if Wicked wasn't here as a predecessor that was incredibly successful.
That's actually going to be a really good connecting point. If you get this in November, that's rewriting that or reimagining it. And then you get the Mufasa story, which, as we've talked about from the trailer, is going to kind of put Mufasa in a different light. The more I think about even titling that one Mufasa, I think it's going to be interesting once people see what they think of Mufasa. There's been some really funny memes out there of people realizing what the story was. But with Wicked, I think adapting it to the big screen was going to be this really big feat, considering how much people have been writing on this, all the adaptations that have come about from it. But then there was the announcement of it being split into part 1 and part 2. And we are in the era where we get a lot of part 1s, part 2. Mission Impossible is coming out with their final reckoning. We're still waiting for the next Spider-Verse. How did you feel about this one being split compared to when you first heard about it to then how it actually wraps it up in the 2 hours and 40 minutes?
I think I've spent so much time getting accustomed to the idea that this would be not just a split, but a strange split, right? Because this is like most of the Broadway musical. Like there's not a whole lot left. There's some left, but there's not a whole. There's a good chunk, but like the Broadway musical is a little less than 3 hours long, and so is this movie.
Oh,
you know,
that,
like
that for sure is an issue.
And there's no original songs, which I'm a little surprised by. You know, they're trying to position this as like a potential Oscar contender, and that's like a category that they're just leaving by the wayside as long as they're padding things into this movie.
That's also a flex, if I could say, because as someone who didn't know all the songs, I was into some and I'm like, oh, is this a fresh new one? And to find out that it's not, props to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, you know, that's the thing is like the musical has a bunch of songs that are like big hits and really beloved, and it that really bolsters this movie, right? Like whether or not this is your favorite version of Defying Gravity, and it is not mine, it is still like Defying Gravity sung by a singer who is incredibly powerful at using that kind of song. Like it, you know, these kinds of, I think there's certain elements of a story like this, because, you know, it has so much success that are almost hard to deny. And the taking this world that is so vivid to any person who has a relationship with movies, considering the legacy of the Wizard of Oz, and finding this interesting way into it. I don't know. There's a lot to be compelled by here. I you know, in terms of dividing it into that part 1 and part 2, I think we have a lot more of an understanding of like the direction they want to go with part 2. You know, there's these rumors out there about casting, and there's obviously the inclusion of the 4 from the Wizard of Oz in the very opening moments of Wicked. Like I think they're trying to tie it in even more to the Wizard of Oz than the musical on stage dares to. I don't know. I wasn't very bothered by its presentation here, but I guess maybe I was resigned to the fact that it was going to be split apart. It is a little bit, you feel the runtime, and it particularly to be only getting part 1 of this story, it's a pretty heavy ask to leave as unresolved as I think you ultimately do in this film.
Yeah, there's different aspects of it, because for starters, the marketing of it, right? Like this doesn't say Wicked Part 1. This doesn't say Wicked Part 1. But if you go to a theater and take a picture of when it says part 1 and post it online, you will see that it, in fact, is trying to pseudo be marketed as part 1 and not. I felt they were upfront with it, but we've seen this from musicals and the way they're being marketed out in trailers and the such, where they don't want you to know it's a musical, but they do. They kind of want you to know it's a part 1, but then they kind of want to, wish it away so that you can get there. It's anything to get butts and seats, and I that's just all marketing for it. In terms of the story itself, I think it changes the aspect of it because now it makes Defying Gravity the final song. And I think that while you are getting like a bigger story here that now needs to be split into 2 parts, it makes it not the middle climax, but it makes it like the climax of the first part of the story, which then allows the second one to build up. I also feel like they're kind of building up to maybe remaking Wizard of Oz. There's like
I think so too.
Right? Because we've been getting this for a lot of other franchises when it comes to Planet of the Apes, and they're getting closer to the original, and people are wondering, are they going to remake it? Are they going to want to do something with it? I almost feel like they've invested so much, and the way that the actresses have tatted themselves with everything, they're like fully committed. They are acting like this is more than a 2-part project. Now, mind you, I knew they grew up with it. I've been seeing the pictures of Ariana Grande with the original cast. So she was always out there waiting for the playbills and everything. Before she was even on Nick, Cynthia Erivo, one away from completing the EGOT, being one of the youngest winners to ever do it. She's been talented in all the movies she's been in, from the Bad Times at the El Royale, where I was like, oh, yo, she could really sing. I've never seen her on stage like that. But that's when I knew. I was like, yo, we got some talents here. I think they both deliver on the on-screen performances. I don't know who could have been better to handle it. But the original cast, with all due respect, bro, that is the epitome of what this story is. So to me, getting into Wicked through this movie and figuring out like what that play was, I get why people are obsessed with it. I guess it could work vice versa as well, because Ariana, Cynthia Erivo, they do a good job with what they have here in this movie.
Totally. And Ariana particularly, like, I think she's really delightful, but she's very much kind of like doing the Kristen Chenoweth thing in a lot of this.
Well, would that be the character? Because I see her trying to do her, I guess if you want to call it the ditziness of it. She does that hair thing. Overkill. Did get me every time. I got to give it to her. She's been doing it on the red carpets. I was like, oh, you just got something in this. You had described it when you first saw it as well, that there's this just like dead look that she gives at certain points.
I love
I'm
that.
like, yeah, you have to be so zoned in. It's this London Tipton like airhead thing that she's got going on, and she demolishes that. My big criticism, I think, especially when you enter the world, and it's been this interesting thing of what they've taken from the movies, what they've taken from the play. The colors when you're in the school, I feel, are so muted. And we had discussed how many times when you're dealing with these movies, especially like big franchise movies, people will tell you, no, you just didn't see it right, or you got to see it in a theater. Yeah, all of that is irrelevant the moment the director came out and said, nah, I did. I that's me. That's me. I did that. It's on purpose. And he wanted it to be more real. And I'm with everybody going like, bro, there's flying monkeys and a green lady. I wanted to see that Technicolor. I wanted to see that stuff pop. Because now we're going to get so many people doing their edits where they think they're color graders. And there'll be too much. But I think there was like a middle ground there where it's like, I don't know. I feel a lot of this should pop in a school.
Especially like when you consider the Technicolor legacy of the Wizard of Oz, this movie that is so well known for that aspect of it. I don't know. It would be nice for these colors to pop a little bit more. And I think I didn't mind it so much in the school when you were at least on these like pretty vivid sets that were,
but the sets were so
designed.
cool. That's why you were right on that.
I don't mind it as much in the sets as I do when you're on the like clearly CGI sets, when the muddiness of it really takes over, and it just sort of feels very much like actors on top of a thing. We talked about Defying Gravity a little bit before, and as powerful as Cynthia Erivo is singing that song, then you cut to her like riding around on a broom like Khaleesi on the dragons in Game of Thrones. It's
you
like
you gotta close your eyes to enjoy it, right? Because it's like she's too good for what I'm seeing up on screen right now.
And
with all due respect.
A problem with both of the big movies this weekend is their reliance on these like kind of uncanny valley CGI animals.
Yeah. Sadly, I mean, that's to me, and I think that's going to be a thing that once it comes out and it's more widely available, do I think people are going to care? Sadly, no, because this is what we've mentioned with MCU. We had brought up like the Thor aspect of it when they had that floating head, and people said that's not a problem. But then MCU fixes it. This is one where the director has had to come out and address it, and I'm curious to see what changes that would, what would happen for the part 2. I'm also kind of curious as they lead up to reuniting with those 4 characters that you keep mentioning, what they're bound to do there, right? You were mentioning the history of the Wizard of Oz being this big, massive movie. It starts in black and white, turns into color. I don't know, bro. What if the new Wizard of Oz VR, baby, theaters are over? Like, is this going to be the next point? It's been 100-some years. What if this is the franchise that kicks us into whatever the next thing is?
It'd be pretty cool. I'd be down for it.
I mean, the way they got the production
VR of the tornado and everything.
That's what I'm saying. The production for the school, the production for a lot of the like where they live and stuff. I've been seeing a lot of the behind the scenes, and it looks beautiful. It's one of those where not seeing it on their cameras and just a regular behind the scenes. Guys, y'all should have shot this like just on the go, because they have created some of the most intricate sets. You had just mentioned that we did an Interstellar podcast, not because we just love Interstellar, but because of the 10-year anniversary that's happening. And we had mentioned the cinematography, and I had brought up it's actually the production design and what's in front of it that really adds to it. And Crowley, I want to say, is the production designer for Interstellar and also for Wicked, and was mentioning how in one of the shots for Wicked, when they were doing the the tulips, he grew all of them, which then added to the characters of the munchkins and like, oh, the white ones bloom first, so they would have more things made out of white and stuff. And I was like, that's fascinating to hear. And he said he learned all that from Interstellar when he grew the corn, because they were going to run over it, and that's become one of the most iconic shots from that movie. I think a lot of the production, especially in the school, could use a little bit more pizzazz. They come in boats, bro, and I'm like, whoa, this is like a Disney World here, and then you never really see that again as much.
Yeah, well, so I'll say this. I think the dancing through life sequence, which is it Jonathan Bailey, who plays Fiyero, his big song with Ariana Grande, I thought that was remarkable. They have this whole thing with like these bookshelves in the library that rotate, and it kind of gives you the like Fred Astaire and Singing in the Rain acrobatic dancing that you want in these kinds of musicals. There is very else like that in the rest of the movie. A lot of it is, like I thought I appreciated that he was able to get more of the choreography in frame than he did in the Heights, but like there's one ballroom sequence, and pay attention to the camera and how just kind of like plain the movements are, just kind of tracking slowly back and forth, making sure to get the scope of the scene, and it just doesn't have.
Is that what she does, the goofy dance?
Yeah, exactly. Like, too, bro. And the way that whole sequence is shot is like so uninspired. There'll be moments where like the shot looks good and then movement kind of takes it away from it. And I was just trying to think of like the difference between this and the master Steven Spielberg, and how like the way he works in West Side Story, he will begin on a beautiful composition and then move the camera to where it lands on another beautiful composition. And there isn't that same kind of like 2-for-1 stuff in Wicked.
Yeah. There's some where he's trying to get some of that juice. You're mentioning Spielberg. There's that one, the song that they do, the Officer Krupke, where they do it in the police station. And they have that one where they like play with the table to make it look like he's behind bars, and they do it all in one go. They kind of have similar ones when they're arguing with each other about hating each other, and they do like a boom, boom, boom from their head down. And they'll have little moments like that, right?
A pretty good sequence too, yeah.
Right, I like that. But Spielberg's made it look effortlessly. Here's like, you guys practiced that like 5 times, and I'm glad you got it. There's a couple of moments with Ariana that I do like. I don't mind the hair thing. I, for whatever reason, found that funny, because she's got this one bit with a wand that goes on for way too long, and I'm like... Next scene, please. A lot of these moments I also think are really good buildups. There's a song Cynthia has called The Wizard and I, if I'm not mistaken. Incredibly sung. Then they put her out in the ugliest field, Gladiator.
Yeah.
Dripping in blood. When he was on the field, didn't look that nasty. You see the behind the scenes, it's because they put green screens all over the outside. Nothing is worse than seeing an outside shot look like it was shot inside when they shot outside.
Yeah.
Like, no.
This movie's
but again,
stuff like that.
Do I think people are going to care for a majority of the stuff? No, because I think they're in it for the songs, the set pieces, and a majority of these people they're not looking for any of those colors to really pop as much. Will it affect it once it comes out on streaming? I'm not exactly sure. I've heard insults now be thrown at the way of they just dropped. What's the next one coming from Disney? Snow White? Snow
Oh
White.
yeah, with the Rachel Zegler, yeah.
Because they're dropping a trailer with that. The colors in there are very vibrant, and people are saying that, oh, this is a movie that's going to be on the Best Buy displays. Guys, that is not an insult. I have never heard it be an insult that my movie will be played on $3,000 TVs that we're trying to sell to people. Some of y'all do not know what insults are. This could be a movie that could be played there for some sequences, but the colors are so dialed back. I think he's improved a little bit, but not as much in the choreography either. I think you're really just relying on this story that is really good, actually. Characters that are beloved and the music that's already been there. There wasn't really much elbow grease to do in the adaptation, I want to say. It's just getting it right, trying to make sure that it fits the pieces. And I think even if you haven't seen the whole story, there are aspects of this when you get to learn about Afelba, where you get some flashbacks with her mom. And I'm looking at this and seeing the character they don't want to show going, I know who that is already. There are things that I think are very easy to connect that maybe should have been wrapped up or hinted a little bit more in the first go around. But I did feel it was too long, but that's from someone who doesn't really know the play as much. I think you feel it. It's also 2 hours and 40 minutes. But I can also say, as someone who can put that to the side, I'm glad y'all got it in 2 hours and 40 minutes, because I cannot think of what a fan would have cut out. I think it's got all of those aspects already there, and it's going to build to something that, like a Deathly Hallows, where you've got all this buildup. What could the part 2 possibly come in on Full Throttle? And I'm curious to see how they play it off.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do that length is kind of a frustrating thing when you also, like, once you sort of get towards the back half of it, and you can feel that, like, the story's only gonna leave you at like a halfway point, right? Like you feel them not wrapping things up in a way that maybe does leave it a little unresolved. That's it. I mostly enjoyed myself with it. Like I think the performances, the songs, the occasions where it looks good were enough that I thought it was pretty well done. Like I'm curious. I don't know. I'm still curious for part 2.
You're a lot more surprised than you expected to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm coming out a little more positive than I expected, especially because I do have, like, nitpicks with it. I don't know if you had any standouts from the cast. I did kind of enjoy Ethan Slater in this, although it's very funny watching him and his characters
play himself.
Love for Ariana Grande, it's palpable.
Yeah.
I don't think Michelle Yeoh is particularly well cast for this kind of a role.
I did not think Michelle Yeoh was cast. It very much felt like she was reciting the lines that they gave her to do. Especially because they changed some stuff for her in where this is a more this is a character who really takes advantage of situations. I'll put it that way, because I believe that there is a change that she does when they first all meet each other, and she takes credit for something. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't see that coming from your character. What did you feel about the wizard, though? Because that would also be a person who's going to play a big part in the upcoming one.
I mean, Jeff Goldblum has, like, a radiance to him that I think it makes him a fitting choice for a character like that. And I thought he, like, held his own in the songs, but he certainly isn't, like, a singer.
He's definitely not a singer. I think you could tell when it's his voice in certain places. But just the idea of this very charismatic figure who really doesn't have that much to offer being played by Jeff Goldblum. There's just something funny about that. Yeah. Because he just comes in, he does what he needs to do. And I think he fit that perfectly for what it was. You had mentioned Jonathan Bailey earlier. That man was funny, bro. Yeah. I don't know this guy.
Neither. Before
Alina tells me he's in Bridgerton. I said, who did he play? Said his name was Bridgerton. I thought it was a place. No, this man appears first scene when he runs into Elphaba. He's got this one bit about, like, is this all you do all day? Are you a slob? And he goes, no, sometimes I sleep. There's a little reaction. I don't know if that scene's out. He does this little reaction afterwards where he's trying to see if that worked on her. Sold me, bro. And then that song that you mentioned inside the bookcase.
Dancing Through Life?
Scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the most innovative ones. Even with the muted colors, he had this one part where he like throws a book, and the way that it falls starts becoming the tempo of the for the movie. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. I had
Yeah, all
listened to
that book
the
choreography.
I listened to the composer say that when you hear the soundtrack, it's completely different to what's in the movie because they recorded it in studio. Everyone had the tempo, but then when they were on set, because they were going to sing it live, if you play them like at the same time, when you see some of the ones that have been released to the song, they'll be delayed a bit because you can see where they went a different way. And he specifically mentioned that book scene. He goes, however the book falls for whatever scene it is, that is that tempo, that is that beat drop. And I'm like, it's the best way to make an adaptation of a Broadway play. You're almost capturing it in real time. And they said they did a lot of scenes like that where they would do long takes, even though it was going to be edited, because it gives you the immersion of being fully in it. So there's a lot I like about it. You know, I wish the colors popped out a bit more because so much money is put into this, and like you see a lot of it in the production on screen. The way that they're able to sing beautifully with the music when they're talking to when it starts being an actual song that they're singing live. I'm more positive than I expected it to be, but I'm still mixed compared to all the love that it's been getting. And I mean, pulling back up over here, the IMDb for it, this, I was telling Zach, I was like, Zach, I don't know if that many people were registered for it to be at a 4.2. But even then, if you remove the 5 stars, there's still a lot of people giving it 4 stars, people who really love this movie. And hey, from what I've seen, people who are coming in dressed up to it, it looks like it's going to be a hit. I think it's got legs for the season. And mentioning part 2, maybe already being filmed. I think they've got that one ready to go in the books.
We got a question for Desaya here in the live stream. Do you think the film was a step down from In the Heights? I still prefer In the Heights. I have a lot of love for like the source material of In the Heights particularly. So I don't know if I'm like completely unbiased in my assessment. I think this is maybe a more successful adaptation than In the Heights to me personally. But I don't know. I might be a little more inclined to watch In the Heights.
Yeah, see that, and that's the thing too, right? It may be a little sloppier if you want to say it that way, even in its story. But I see both of these as just adaptations to the musicals that I've never had the chance to see. But in like finding versions of those things, like you really see what the goal was. I think a big part is also that this is trying to mix in stuff from the book. I guess it's a book before it became a musical and now a movie. So there's a lot of stuff in the book that they're trying to expand on. And I think that's why part 2 may have a lot more.
Good point.
If I had to watch one, In the Heights.
Good call. So I think I'm gonna go 3.5 personally for Wicked.
Wow.
How about
Bro,
you?
I've been sitting at a 3 over the weekend. I've been contemplating that extra half. I love everything they give into it. I'm gonna watch it again because Alina wants to go see it again for her birthday. But we can stick to the 3.5 for the Intercut combined one right now.
Let's do it.
Well, hey, we'll see on those 2 hours and 40 for a second round.
Do you want to have a quick conversation about movie theater etiquette, or are we just going to be boring? Like, do we have anything interesting to say about it?
I mean, I'm going to have a different take for it. I love people complaining about something they're not dealing with. People are going through this. And there are people who are like, I only watch press screenings. Let me join in on the fun. All this shows me, Zach, is that people are going back to the movies. That's why I'm so surprised at the box office. This is always there. You telling me that reminds me of Sound of Freedom when they were like, the air conditioners don't work. Hey, welcome back to the movies, honey. They've never worked. You are just back for the first time. So everyone complaining about that, it's like, that's never left. But I have found it funny that there are critics who are never going to public screenings trying to join in on this. And I'm like, sit down. I think it's gone beyond it became a bit. That's why we're mentioning it, right? Because it became a bit to complain about the people who many of us are not even seeing. My crowd sang along, but I didn't see that many phones. I know they say no singing, but they sang.
I gotta say, I don't love that. I know The Rock recently came out and said that like if you want to sing along for Moana 2, you should sing along. But that sounds like my nightmare, having to deal with somebody like audibly going along with the movie. Let me focus on the movie. You know, with the taking pictures of the screen, to me, like, while I don't love that behavior, like it's a small moment. What ultimately bothers me is when I'm next to somebody who's having a full-on FaceTime with someone during the movie. That's the shit that we need to cut out of society.
Right, and that's well beyond dunking someone on Twitter for. It's like
Yeah.
those people obviously think it's okay to do. You yelling at them online, that's my biggest thing that I always tell you. That's not gonna fix it. It's just gonna make them think that you're trying to strip their rights away of their phone. Like people
Yeah.
just don't know how to talk to other people, and I feel like we're doing it in two ways. That is not a thing you should do. They have PSAs before. Like it's an obvious thing for movie theater etiquette. But I think we're teaching people the wrong way to do it. They think they're being a part of a promotion. Okay. They saw people taking pictures of Megalopolis. They don't know the difference. They think it's a part of a trend, like you, right? No one wants to say that it's a little bit. Many of you are not even going through it, but it's got to be a thing you complain about because then it makes you whatever
You have
else.
to
Yeah,
stand
we
on
know not to do
your
that.
Twitter soapbox and
We've
fight for the
already
dignity of the
complained.
movie theater.
Pay for a ticket. If you're complaining about this, I know you probably are trying to get into the movie industry in some way, probably not for movies. If you ain't paying for a movie ticket, that's probably the best way to probably get it.
Yeah.
You know, there are some peers who don't know what A-list is.
That's stunning to me. Like
that's insane.
Yeah. Do you know the Venice Film Festival? They were using laser pointers and shining them at people who were on their phones during the movie. They're not paying the teenagers AMC nearly enough to do that, but maybe they could get it in Alamo Drafthouse or something.
Yeah. When we Tiff did that just to make sure no one was recording
the flashlight. Yeah.
The flashlight stuff. Yeah. You're just not paying enough for people. But again, you're talking about Zach making better people, and that might be a little bit more, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like people should be better, my list of complaints.
Right? Yeah,
a lot more before we get to movie theater etiquette.
Yeah, we're focused on people getting back into the theaters, and sadly, that's going to be some people on phones also.
Although, what movie theater etiquette says about society, like we could learn a lot, right? Like that's a should I do an essay on that?
Do a video, do a deep dive. Why not? People will connect to it easily. For the sing-alongs, though, I don't think it's that bad when it's a musical that most people know, because it should be getting drowned out with the people.
What I would say to that is that like they do sing-along specific screenings. Like that's a thing.
Yes. I'm like a little, so when we see movies that are funny and then they won't shut up laughing, so we miss the next line, I feel weird going like, no laughing, please. Like that's really weird. There's supposed to do that. So it's kind of like you're watching a musical. I feel like a czar telling you, no singing, please. Like, no, you're going to sing, you're going to laugh. You can't squeeze human interaction.
Don't you hate it though when you go to a concert and the person next to you is just scream shouting?
Yes, but then you ask them who sings that, and when they tell you tell them keep it that way. That's what you got to do, bro. But we're also kind of just suppressing people. Again, the person who took the part one thing, yeah, they were trying to do like a bit, but I think they were also happy to like be there. And I think many people make mistakes in the midst of them trying to showcase a love for something that they have. So we are not condoning any of the movie theater etiquette that's out there. If you have not gone through it, I feel like some of you guys are complaining about it. Like you nominated yourself for an ice bucket challenge yourself. This is a thing that's been happening for a while. And every time it gets brought up, it makes me laugh because it's like, Zach, people did not automatically get more phones. It's just people are finally going back to the movie theaters. And that's how you find out when they start complaining about the things at the places they haven't been to in a while. Y'all should be complaining about those recliners. Some of those recliners are broken, bro. And they should not be.
More than once I've gone and my recliner just wasn't plugged in.
Bro, like who's charging their phones?
That's it. That must be it.
That's what it must be. It. Someone's going behind.
FaceTime keeps eating their phone battery.
Oh my gosh, bro. Now we figured it out. This is ridiculous. If you agree with me, if you text in theater, you should get sniped. There you go. That is a weekend must watch. Tip of the week. Wicked in theaters. You're recommending it? Definitely worth.
As long as you're a fan of movie musicals, I think this is one of the better ones we've had in a couple of years. Not that I think it's great. It's not West Side Story, but like, I don't know, and it's pretty good.
It's better than I thought. I'm still a little mixed on it. I think the runtime's going to be big. I think they could boost the colors a bit. But the more that I'm getting into the Wicked world and just listening to the songs, I mean, I've been humming it the entire time we've been recording tonight. Yeah, I think it's giving the fans what they want. You don't believe in I think it was Ehrlich who went on a whole tirade of like, this is the death of cinemas or whatever. You're not feeling that one? You're not feeling the red one rage? He applied it to this one. I kind of see it, but I also think like, I don't know, I've seen you give a pass to some other ones, so I don't see why this would be the issue. Like honestly, after everything, I can't go lower than a 3. I've always told you that. Like, even when I don't like a movie, I gotta give respect to this person, this singing. Like, yeah.
I mean, like I don't know, at a certain point, like I think there's just enough talent there to at least appreciate. Maybe there's some things that maybe there's some things that I don't like about it that are also like endemic to the industry right now, but this is certainly not the worst culprit of those problems.
Wicked Part 1 out in theaters. I do agree. Oh, right here in the chat. Big shout out to the chat as well. Everyone there. I see Magnitude Reviews was telling us hi as well. People should be complaining about dirty screens. Amen. That's the one.
So one thing I learned about dirty screens that I hadn't realized is that a lot of the cleanup crews are just sort of like leaf blowing popcorn out of the carpets at the end of the night, and the popcorn particles hit the screen. So also clean up after yourself at the movie theater if you don't like dirty screens.
That's never going to happen, obviously, because you're asking people to be better people.
Oh, that's what it keeps. This is what
movie theater keeps coming down to
about the 2024 election.
There you go. It's all tied in right there. That said, though, we used to have curtains, Zach, for this very reason. It's like, what are we doing, bro? It was all there. Either way, Wicked is out in theaters. If you're a big fan of it, let us know down below. What is your favorite iteration of Wicked? You had mentioned this was not your favorite one. Do you have a different one? Is it just obviously the go-to? Because there's a scene when they arrive to Emerald City in the movie, and they had a song when they arrive at Emerald City, and I thought the people they sang with did a really good job and reminded me of how much better some people could play roles.
You know, Popular is a hot track. That's a good one. Did you see the Kanye beat for Popular? I posted to Twitter. Kanye.
Bro, you gotta understand. Popular. I didn't know it was from this.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I had no idea Popular came from
Coming full circle. Yeah, it's sick.
Okay, I'm gonna have to hear that. All right. For sure. Wicked out in theaters. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments section as we move on to one of the biggest movies, a sequel that has been in the works for a little bit and has finally come out in the midst of this man working on, what is it, a dozen movies a year? Ridley had that quote about like, why would I retire? Is the man who laughs at anyone who's thinking about retirement or a 401k, anything. Ridley Scott is always on the grind. He never stops, and now has a follow-up to his 2000. Full 25 years right here. Yeah. But it's 16 years after the events of the first Gladiator. I was able to catch it again on Prime. It's a good movie, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it is an Oscar Best Picture winner, which is
Best Picture winner.
Yeah,
they should make a sequel with Paul Mescal. 16 years later, after the events, I'll say, even though they tell you straight up everywhere, of the first movie, you follow this, I don't know, country boy, I want to say, who's married off on the wayside, who's just trying to have peace on his own, right? But when you get drafted, you get drafted, and the events of the story begin as the Roman Empire is led by these, I did not realize that was going to be the story, these two bozo twins who have used the army that they have at their disposal to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you get that big, sometimes you're going to piss off the wrong person, someone who may have ties to the first movie as well, and it brings it into the events of Gladiator II, the most realistic Roman Empire movie of the year, depending on who you ask. I think we may be divided on this because I did not realize how many people have been disappointed by Gladiator II.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fun. It's nowhere near the first. I need to say that.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
It was goofy. It was fun. It was a decently fun time at the movies. I'm not here to hate on Gladiator 2.
Tell me what did I get wrong?
Well, I'm here to maybe nitpick about a few things.
Tell me.
All right, so you talked about how great that first Gladiator film is, and like obviously Gladiator 2 knows that well. They're really trying to like copy the formula in a lot of ways, not dissimilar to Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick or many other legacy sequels. We talked about this earlier this year with Twister and then Twisters. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yeah, I mean, like since The Force Awakens, this has kind of been the strategy. So like, I think sometimes you can't help but compare the ways in which one pales in some ways to the other. And I think part of what it comes down to me is that the actual like battle sequences themselves are not as thrilling to me, partially because they are composed of so much of that like ugly, uncanny CGI that we were talking about when we were talking about Wicked. You know, there's so many fights against CGI animals in this movie, and none of them look quite right. Maybe the rhino's okay, but
a little bit more passable than the monkeys for sure. The monkeys were atrocious.
Yeah, and it also ends up making the movie feel a little bit more towards the realm of absurd than the first one. Obviously, there's like some stuff that's ridiculous in that first movie too, but nothing quite on the level of filling the Coliseum with water and putting sharks in there.
Sure, I've been seeing a lot of. Is Gladiator a true story?
I mean, like it's all based on elements of truth, right? Like, doesn't Joaquin Phoenix play? I'm might be getting this wrong. Like Marcus Aurelius, like that's a person.
I guess, but like the take that he's doing is already different. So I guess I didn't mind the sharks as much. But I also can't argue with someone that isn't the goofiest thing in the world. Even in the technical side of it, there was way too much CGI for my liking because I'm already seeing it age right here on this prime screen.
Right.
There's a battle at the beginning where I do think it's filled with CGI, but I do still think they feel grand. That first attack at the port, it feels like, even with the sharks, they feel powerful. They're bloody. They don't cut corners. They show you full scenes, but then they'll do goofy things where it looks like a little CGI, and then they put CGI water on the lens, and I'm like, why'd you?
Right.
Why did you do that?
We talked about this when we talked about Napoleon, but Ridley Scott might be like our foremost auteur of large-scale military conflicts. And when he keeps it to like stuff involving real people, I think the movie is quite thrilling, and that opening sequence does really work.
That's where I'm defending it, because I'm hearing you. You see those dumb sharks, and you're like, what is this? And someone falls down. But then the way he's choreographing the boat to maneuver it to stop and pin them, and Ridley ends up putting a camera on the front of the boat so we can go through it. I'm like, oh, you win me back with moments like this. So I'm trying to defend it more on the aspect of it is badass. And then there's some of that CGI that's going to age it, as opposed to the entire thing being a bad premise to set it up. I think there's just goofy parts to it that he decided he wanted to go all grand for. And this has been a thing he's been doing. You remember The Last Duel? He was doing press for that. It's one of my favorite inserts. It's when he just tells the guy to F off because he questioned him on a scene. We have been so like on point with what this man has been creating that I guess I just came into Gladiator knowing it was a director of House of Gucci.
Right.
That's the mode that he's in at this point in time, you know?
I mean, the very first thing that I wrote in my notebook is Ridley Scott the high-class Roland Emmerich?
Yeah, sure.
Right? In a way.
I see where you're going for there. Roland Emmerich doesn't stop with his script for sure, but I see what you mean. It's these big set pieces where he's still, if he's got to do something with CGI, he's going to do it because he's going to get it done. He's almost like a refined Clint Eastwood, where he's doing more than one take, but he's not doing a lot. It's why he sets up what do you say now, 20 something cameras all over the place. So technically he's just directing one scene, and then he can just recoup it again, but he's never doing it from different angles.
Right.
It's efficient. I think it makes for some really good sequences, but at the same time, I get the criticisms people have, but I didn't think they were the worst, especially because you also see it in the characters. The characters are also just as goofy as the plot.
Yeah.
We'll start basic. You got some criticisms on my boy? And you know what?
Is Paul Mescal your boy? When did he become your boy?
Gladiator II, baby. I don't get why they're hating on him. I have never cared for this man. And Normal People, I think After Sun is a fine movie. Everyone has cried and loved this man. And now all of a sudden, he gets a globe and you're going to trash him? I think he feels like a guy who's living on the outskirts independently. And then they dragged him into a movie that's a big blockbuster. And I thought he fit the role.
All right,
He's not
first
his
of all, after
pops.
sun shooters are going to come for you, so be
Let's
careful with
go.
that. Second of all, I don't think Paul Mescal is bad in this movie. I think he's maybe giving like 80% of a good performance, and I don't know if the other 20% is that the script isn't particularly well suited for what he's doing, or that he's just like not putting a lot of spice on the line deliveries. Like he's really playing the whole thing like this really calm, unfazed badass, and it is badass. Like he rises to those moments, but like I don't think he reaches the like are you not entertained levels of just like showmanship that you'd get from somebody like Russell Crowe. And I think the script is maybe asking for it. And you know, Ridley Scott has sort of talked a lot about how he's much more focused on like the production, and he kind of lets the actors do their own thing. I wonder if there is like a miscommunication of sorts happening there.
See, I felt that the script was giving those lines to the twins. It was giving it to Denzel. It was giving it to them instead. So he has no
the best
other
parts
choice.
of this movie.
Exactly. So I felt that he was doing what he was supposed to do. I agree that there's a lot more you can expect from him. But I just assumed like, no, Denzel's going to be the one to give you that. And especially out of the two, the one from Stranger Things, because they're playing twins. I'm blanking on his name, but he
Joseph Quinn
was very good. Joseph Quinn, I thought delivered some really good ones. He does the flip on "Are you not entertained?" And I thought it was amusing. I worked.
Okay, so then we could talk about another thing that I have some nitpicky issues with, is that how closely this movie is tied in with the first Gladiator movie. And we might have to do some like light Gladiator II spoilers here, because I think I want to talk a little bit about some of the decisions they made with Paul Mescal's character. As you know, you can even see on IMDb, he's got more than one name credit there. But like tying him in so closely with the Russell Crowe character from the first film just like leaves this looming emptiness over the whole thing. Like it kind of feels like they're waiting for Russell Crowe to show up in the last scene or something like that.
How much spoilers? Light spoilers?
Heavy spoilers? We can go all the way if you really want. Like this is your warning to skip ahead in the podcast or mute your headphones for a minute. But
when Russell Crowe came in a pickup truck and ran over all of the Romans, I thought it was ridiculous. Look, we were talking about if seeing the first one and this back to back is a bad thing or a good thing, and I was leaning more on it being a good thing because of those tie-ins. If you don't have those tie-ins, you're watching this going like, oh yeah, I guess that connects to something. And they do the Top Gun thing. They cut back to Gladiator 1 to show you footage. So when people see him that he's credited, it's because they're cutting back to footage of that, just like Top Gun did. I don't think you maybe need to see the first one, but whether you do or don't, I think it's better that you do. You do have a character that returns in the sister, wife, and something else. But in that, I'm going to agree with you. I disagree on both points. I'm agree with you on both points also right now.
Okay.
This man's got a terrible scream that he does at the beginning that he looked like Tim Robbins when he loses somebody. And then there's a point at the end where he's got to give a speech and he goes, y'all want me to give a speech? I will not give a speech. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
And then 2, there is a scene with a returning character that's in this movie that they both share. And I thought it was the funniest thing. Are you so-and-so? I don't know if so-and-so was here you wouldn't want to talk to.
Right. Like that.
Funny.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You get a Jared Leto type of performance in there. It's going to be a joke. It's one of those melodramatic things where you have to play it right here. And it's almost funny what they're trying to bring back from Gladiator. It is a little goofy. I also enjoyed every aspect of it because it's that storyline that brings in Denzel Washington. Someone who I believe has a much sinister and bigger plan the entire time. I think that man kind of knew a lot more. But getting into his character, he's the flamboyant one. I will say all of this conversation about him being gay, I think I know where that kiss was that they were saying. There's one scene where he does and I feel like it was right there on that third one. think it plays with the character. I don't get why that was cut out. And if it was cut out, it's created more of a fuss it being cut out. But two, do you not spend like 3 lines just going, hey, you want to go with the girls? The girls aren't for me. Like, I thought those were the most random lines to have in a movie where his character keeps reminding you that he's gay.
Right. We're also talking about like a depiction of Roman society where they're like a little bit more sexually liberal than like our current.
If it's in Rome, you've tasted it.
Yeah, right. But like it's really fun to see Denzel play in those registers.
No, his performance is fantastic in this movie. It is unfair for everybody else who's in this movie.
That's what I was gonna say, is that like I think Denzel's performance is so good in this movie that it almost might make the movie worse off. I'm rooting for Denzel the whole time.
I'm hearing what you're saying, because my rebuttal to that is you cannot have the lead character be at his level, because then it becomes too cartoony. There is a point where he's dealing with the twins. And when it's with Joseph, it's all right. But when it's with Fred, they're both trying to do this bit. And I'm like, you see, that can't be the whole movie. So now we're stuck with this debacle where he's got to deal with Mescal acting like Plank sometimes, because there's just too much sauce in some of these scenes. One person has to carry it and somebody else has got to be just like that. And sadly, when Denzel is not with the lead cast, those are some of the best scenes in the movie. Dear Lord. Dear Lord. He says this line to someone who owes him money. And I was like, damn. It's crazy because you see him and you're like, oh yeah, he still got it. It's like when you watch a new Spielberg. It's like when you watch a new Tom Hanks and you're like, they're just never going to lose it. There's no one near what these guys are able to bring. But I like this character. I like the reveals of his character. I liked his plan. You see it a little bit on a final sequence in how they have to cut around for a stunt double, I will say. But it still worked.
Yeah, it still largely works, and a lot of that is because he is such a larger than life presence. I mean, just the way he walks in a room yelling like "I smell devil's breath" is like something that's going to become a regular part of my vocabulary now. He's just such an icon, and yeah, maybe it is a little bit unfair asking him to go up against these like fresh faces, but he really steals the movie.
He steals the movie for sure, through and through. I thought he was great. And as we've been mentioning with the twins, I do prefer one over the other. Although the other one, come on, the dumb stuff. The younger twin, Fred.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous where they take this movie in the third act. But it also leads to a great Denzel bit, does it not?
Yeah, it's when Denzel, again, we're spoilers here, just like fully takes over the Senate. Like that's the thing. It's like I'm like, let's go. I want this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's that. You saw it. It's just it's a 2-hour movie where you got to deal with. There was one point where you don't get Mescal. He's in jail, and they cut back to him after all of this like debating that's happening in the background. Who's going to get to an army? All this different stuff. And then it cuts to him in jail, and I'm like, oh, that's right, you're in this. Probably not a good thing to say, but yes, he is a completely different tone to the movie. There is a point where he's carrying the bow from the beginning, and I went, BS, he still doesn't have that.
Yeah, it's really goofy, and it's so much goofier in comparison to that first one
than expected.
Which I don't know, maybe part of my reaction is a little bit of just like whiplash from that effect. But like I did have a fun time with it. I'm not trying to say like this movie was completely bad. Maybe I felt the length a little bit in the second half, but it has a lot of performers that I really like. Like I like Fred Hechinger in this movie. I like Joseph. He
was good for the goofiness.
Like
Joseph was
neither is quite as good as Joaquin Phoenix, but the two of them together like may be close.
Make it a little bit.
I don't know. I found stuff to enjoy. Oh right,
come on, what are you doing?
I completely forgot. I was gonna completely leave it out of the show. My theater had the foam finger even for Gladiator.
That's specifically so that when someone's on their cell phone in the theater, Zach uses that to cover them up.
Yeah, I'd say, look, buddy, look.
Hey, buddy. Not entertained. Oh. So that's where the budget went and why they didn't use it for the CGI.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Oh. The posters with the MF Doom mask that they didn't
that's fire,
put in the movie.
Yeah, that's cool. See, if the Sharks would have come out of that, you wouldn't be complaining.
Nah, that'd be pretty badass.
Hey, they've got a marketing budget for it. I've told you, you can't watch any sports without a dozen commercials coming on, players being in a bunch of the promos and the such. And I don't know what the full budget was, but for the most part, I think it's tracking to do pretty well alongside Wicked. I think it's a good double release for the both of them. I think it's a fun movie because I've seen Napoleon, and that's what I want to ask you. Between Napoleon, his most recent, and this, which would you prefer?
That's a great question because, like, I had problems with Napoleon, but I don't think I enjoyed anything in Gladiator as much as this lamb chop was brought to me by destiny, or
That's
you're
a
just
great
jealous.
line,
Yeah, or the boats line. I don't know. I'd probably rewatch Gladiator before I'd rewatch Napoleon.
Yeah, I think the performances in this, I think the story is interesting, as wacky as it is, the way that they try to connect it. It's still fun. There are some really cool kills in this. The CGI will age a bit, but for the most part, I thought it was a fun trip in the movies. I think I'm probably locking it in at a 3.5.
3.5. All right, I would probably go 3, but you went up to 3.5 on Wicked, so I could go up to 3.5 for Gladiator 2.
5 stars on both. We've been glicked.
And a reminder that you can follow the Intercut Pod Letterboxd account, where not only do we post our reviews of the movies as we cover them, but every week we are posting lists featuring every movie that we discuss during the podcast. So if you want to catch up with something, you heard us mention a movie and didn't exactly get the title, you can always check out the Letterboxd list to catch up with everything we've discussed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got a quick roundup of some pilot previews that came out this weekend. I spent, I want to say it was like Wednesday. I can't remember when this came out. It came out a little bit earlier than was expected. But the new Cruel Intentions, Prime also has the older one out there as well. I rewatched the older one because Alina had never seen it. It's a classic. I like it. It's wrong in all the right ways. It's fun. This is a CW remake. Prime is the new CW. That's all I had to say about this. They bring back, you've seen the first one, right?
Yeah, of course.
They bring back some characters in the most interesting ways. I know him from Love and Basket, or not Save the Last Dance. He was also in Prime's Gen V. He's in the original Cruel Intentions, and he comes back yet again. What they do with this character, very funny, but for the most part, if you're talking miscasting, this is miscasting. Ryan Phillippe and what he brings to the first movie is not what the boys got in this one. It just doesn't do it justice. It gets the basic elements of the story. It tries to modernize some things. It's interesting, but then, damn, do they beat you over the head with how they try to modernize it in a way that becomes annoying, where it doesn't feel like they're pitching it to you. It's like, this is how it would be, right? It's almost like they're telling you, this is how it would be, right? This is what would happen in a school if we try to adapt the story, and that washed it down a little bit. But I'd agree with the score. I'm around a 5.5 in terms of the IMDb rating. But it's definitely one where there's a lot to laugh at and a lot to goof off on. So if you wanted like a crappy background show, Cruel Intentions is still adapting one of the most salacious stories out there. But if you've got Prime already, you can just watch the first one for free.
Did they de-sex Cruel Intentions? I think that was a lot of people's reaction to the trailer, that it seemed like it would be a lot more tame than people remember Cruel Intentions as.
No, because the first one had better actors that made you believe the sultriness.
Right.
It's all still there, but you just like don't buy them. There are moments, the way that it's blocked and edited, where it's like, oh, okay, you guys never really touched each other. You're starting off already after the sex scene.
Right.
But you just don't buy their chemistry, where in the first one, things were implied, and the actors sell it so much. It's too good. So that'd be the big thing there. It's still a very similar story, but again, it's one of those where it's like you're about to hear a joke for the first time. Who do you want to hear it from? Get the punchline from the original. They deliver it a lot better. Cruel Intentions, a new series, as they continue to do. I mean, they did I Know What You Did Last Summer series. They're not going to stop. They got no shame. But when it comes to the Netflix side of things, they're trying to adapt Oscar nominees in a way that until you told me last week, I was like, how are you even going to make this to a show? One of the best movies to come out that year from Chile and got the nomination, maybe a double nomination, if I'm not mistaken. Was it international and doc?
I feel like it just got docked, but I think it maybe got shortlisted for international at
Something like
least.
that, right? I'll do a double check on
Mole
that. But
Agent.
yeah, tell me about Man on the Inside, which is the newest one from Netflix.
Yeah, so we talked about this before, that this is the new show from Mike Schur, who's done Parks and Recreation as well as The Good Place, probably one of our foremost like creators of TV sitcoms, and obviously worked with Ted Danson on The Good Place, so they have good chemistry. Ted Danson playing the lead here of a man who is recruited by a private investigator to go undercover by moving into a senior care facility in order to spy on some of the residents there. So it's got this like really kind of delightful premise. And I think what Mike Schur does a really good job of is mining the situation for for showing a depiction of senior life that we maybe don't get as much in our sitcoms. Like it's a really fun take on like the nursing like the nursing home setting, but with a real focus on the residents themselves and how they feel being at the later stage of life, being at a place that encourages a lot of like debaucherous behavior, you know, like in one of the first episodes, Ted Danson's character gets drunk for the first time since he went to a concert many, many years ago and stuff like that. And I think there's just like a sweetness and charm to a lot of it, and a few just like really sharp jokes thrown in there along the way, that this is an incredibly easy to watch, like afternoon delight sitcom. Like it's just like a real pleasure. Nice. It's only 8 episodes. They're pretty short, like 20 something minutes. Very easy to binge through this show. I dug it. Yeah, it's just that first season so far, and they're gonna make more of it. But yeah, really? I at least that's I think what they're planning on. I don't know if they've officially announced it, but it seems like it. So I don't know. I would recommend it. I think it's a pretty delightful hang for it. At least.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm excited to catch it on the downtime for the Thanksgiving weekend. Sounds good. I was worried it was gonna be a little too sad, but I guess it's Ted Danson. Why would it not be funny?
Yeah, I mean, it has like some maybe like sappiness to it, but it's not really that sad. Yeah. I think they managed to make it pretty delightful.
Decent. All right. Those are our pilot reviews of the week. We'll be back with some other stuff after next week when we come back for December, as we start gearing up for our best of the year. Movies, TV, all that good stuff. So this is around the time where we start asking y'all, let us know what we've missed. If you have been an avid Intercutie and have listened to all the stuff that we've recommended, if you go over to the letterbox and you see what we're missing, like, yo, this is not great in, clearly the boys have missed this, put it on our radar. Anything that you think we should reevaluate as well as we get to the final month of the year, and we prep all of our top stuff. But before we get into that,
shout out to Bisaye, who I know shouted out Small Things Like These, the Cillian Murphy movie.
Still gotta watch that.
Yeah, they just didn't put it in a lot of theaters for whatever reason, but I'm curious about that one too.
That one played at Chicago, so they had an interesting release with it, but it should be out probably on VOD soon. But I am curious for that one. Any other comments?
We'll get to them in a little bit.
Gotcha. All right, take it away.
All right, so as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday, and we are now 53 days away from the Oscar nominations being announced on January 17th, a little less than 100 days away from the ceremony in March, I wanted to just give a little bit of an update on the Oscar Best Picture slate, and at least where I see things shaking out for now. I'll bounce it off of you, see whether or not you agree with some of my assessments of the movies that could potentially be in the mix for Oscars later this year. So I've got 15 movies highlighted here, 10 that I think are in the lead, and 5 that are potential upsets or underdogs when we get down to it. And just starting off with some of the movies that feel like pretty strong bets. We've talked about Anora a lot on the podcast. It is some of people's favorite movie of the year. That is likely getting into the Best Picture slate. It won the Palme d'Or, which is a pretty good signifier. The Brutalist, which many people are talking about as one of the year's masterpieces. I think it's a sure bet to get a bunch of like technical nominations and probably some above the line ones as well. I would be surprised if it doesn't get into that final 10. Conclave, which we've talked about as well on the podcast, just a real good pot boiler that like sort of hints at some deeper ideas. I don't know how vividly it explores all of them.
I don't argue with there. You're missing a star here, bro.
I mean, look, it's a real solid movie, and
it is.
I think a lot of people agree with you, and that is going to power its way into the Oscars discussion.
Conclave Hive. Big thumbs up on that one for sure, right off the bat.
Yeah. My next one, I know you have a big thumbs up with Dune Part 2. It is the blockbuster juggernaut of the year. I know some people think that Wicked is going to also be a big factor. I have Wicked as well. We'll get to that in a sec. But I still think Dune Part 2, just on a technical aspect alone, is probably going to walk away with a statue or two, as well as that Best Picture nomination.
So. You would think so.
Yeah. Emilia Perez, it seems to have taken a lot of people by storm. You know, people really loved this one out of Cannes, and even though it is pretty divisive, I think the love for it is going to be strong enough to get it in there, because ultimately what you need to get Oscar nominations are people who list your film as one of the best couple they saw in the year, and the people who love Emilia Perez really love Emilia Perez. So I think that one gets in as well.
I'm burnt on that one. I don't see it other than maybe an acting award. But if it does, tell me.
Well, the thing is, the acting branch is the largest branch of the Academy. And a lot of times you see a pretty big overlap with films that get a lot of acting nominations, or those lead acting nominations, especially lead actor, but that's another discussion. So if you have films that are contenders in those categories, there's a decent chance that they'll be contenders in picture as well. But part of the thing that we're seeing, at least, you know, now we're 5 movies into my slate. There is no clear front runner in a way that some other years have had one. Like, it felt basically from the moment that Oppenheimer debuted in July of last year that it was going to be a heavy contender, if not the clear front runner. And you know, there's not a movie quite like that this year.
There's one thing that I saw on Twitter where someone had like a viral tweet, and then they promoted Emilia Perez. So I had to follow that through. I was like, no, because you have Emilia Perez, and then you have, you know, the rose thing that they're trying to sell. So I go and I click it, and there's like a page that's a random fan doing FYCs for Emilia Perez. What's the movie that got in trouble?
Was it to Leslie for Fran Fisher's campaign for what's her name? Andrea Riseborough.
Look, I ain't no snitch, but if this gets in, I'm calling cases on this because I'm seeing it already. You can't do that.
Stan culture is gonna push it. You know, Selena Gomez is one of the most followed people on social media in the world.
Even bigger than most followed people in the world. I still remember when they broke down who has the most bots following them, and it was because Selena Gomez's fans are so into her. Her own fans buy the bots to beat them out. It's insane, dude. So when I was seeing that the fans are running paid FYC campaigns, I was astonished, yet also I almost kind of respected that, bro. Like, I wish Conclave unite. We can give 10% like the Conclave does, and we can get it.
Finds Hive, stand up.
We need to give our tithes. But yeah, I just personally, I can see why it could still remain, but I see no reason for it. I feel like the biggest thing, as you're mentioning, would be acting. I think it's monumental if that's the thing that they're looking for, to give a nomination to Emilia Perez for the lead performance. Everything else in it, because you got more than 10 on here, and if I already got to knock out one, bro.
All right, well, let's talk about the next.
Oh, we're knocking out 2. Okay.
I mean, look, I don't think Wicked is one of the strongest movies of the year, but I think there is a branch of cinema lover, Academy voter that really is into this kind of version of a Hollywood movie. And, you know, musicals have been a bit hit or miss, but like, seems like the people who are into the movie musicals are into this one. I don't know. Maybe it's another one that's going to benefit from stan culture. I just kind of think that like Wicked's got enough going for it that it'll get in. I mean, if it's, I don't know, it's getting that kind of push there, you know, from the marketing and everything. It's just sort of omnipresent.
Yeah, it's not even debatable. The numbers it's putting up, the reception it's gotten, the fact that it's
this year's Barbie in that sense.
No, that's a great point to put a bit. But do you want it to be this year's Barbie? Because didn't Barbie go home with zilch?
I mean, I would be okay if that was the situation for Wicked, but that's another story.
Gotcha. You want the nomination. You don't really care for it to take home a win. Because so far, like even on IMDb, we always talk about the difference. Stan culture on IMDb, I wouldn't say is usually pushing a movie like this, and even they're appreciating it at that point. Everyone who's in the below the line cast or crew, a lot of these people who are head of the departments also have received nominations. So you're already with a whole filmmaking talented team that is well versed on an Oscar run, that have all already had one. I see it picking up several nominations for sure. I, like you, though, think it's an honor to just be nominated sometimes and keep it real.
Yeah, we need to celebrate nominations more than just like talk about who's going to win. I think. My next selection is Nickel Boys. I just think that's like perhaps the artistic achievement of the year. And maybe I'm setting myself up for a little bit of heartbreak for people who aren't willing to like go to that place with this movie. But it is getting the kinds of like raves from critics that I think will help push it, you know, especially if it can pick up some like momentum from picking up critics awards and some of the smaller awards. I kind of see Nickel Boys getting in there. I don't know.
It's like this year's Moonlight, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It is literally playing at all the same festivals. It's got the rise all the way to the top. It's a monumental achievement that at the end of the day, we might have a La La Land 2.0, to be honest with you. Maybe this does get awarded after they give it to Dune or Emilia. Wicked! No, Nickel Boys!
Yeah, we can only hope because it's an undeniable artistic achievement.
But to me, it's one of those where it's like, if you're going to lock this in as a nominee, then you sound like an idiot not putting it as Best Picture. But that's also me who has Conclave over Nickel Boys. But that's just me.
Right.
It has got to get nominated. But like, what else? Script?
Yeah, script. I wouldn't be surprised in cinematography either. It is such a singular looking film.
Yeah, true. No, definitely for sure. Nickel Boys. Yeah. I mean, I would love this one to be. I just got my mom to go see it too.
Oh, nice. A Real
I
Pain.
got the A-list and everything. I got A-list for my mom, my sister. They watch more movies than I do now. A Real Pain is still my favorite out of Sundance. One of my favorites of the year.
Absolutely. And like in this part of the list, we're getting into the movies where I'm starting to like have a little bit less confidence on whether or not they'll get in. I do have this one getting in because I think ultimately people are just sort of responding and connecting emotionally to this movie. Like I don't think that most of the people that I hear talking about this movie are talking much necessarily about like the cinematography or the production design, but they're all talking about how moved they were by it, and they're talking about that incredible Kieran Culkin performance, which I think is the front runner for supporting actor right now.
So that to me, I have more faith in than it getting in Best Picture, because when we're sitting there reading the listening to nominations, it has to be the first one named. So right off the bat, I'm gonna feel the pain.
Well, are they going to go? Are they going to go by the A, or are they going to go by the R in real?
Why wouldn't they go by the A?
Do they go by the thes when they announce the somethings? I actually don't remember if they go alphabetically.
That's a great question. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, speaking.
But if they say a complete unknown, then you know for a fact.
Yeah, I actually did a little bit of research on this. If both A Real Pain and A Complete Unknown get nominated for Best Picture, it will be the first time in Academy Awards history that two movies beginning with the word A were nominated in the same year. We haven't had a Best Picture nominee since A Serious Man in 2009.
A Serious Man?
Yeah.
Damn,
been a long time coming. We're overdue for the A movies.
We've been waiting for the A's.
Speaking of which, A Complete Unknown. I just got to see this movie over the weekend. The film about Bob Dylan's transition from folk to electric music, and played by Timothée Chalamet in a performance that people are highly anticipating because this feels like tailor-made to give him some kind of awards run. And I would not be surprised to see it. I think he is really convincing in this part. There's obviously like a bit of watching Tim Chalamet do the thing, but like I found him to be pretty transformational in a way that I don't always expect from him, and really just convincing throughout as much of this movie is. I think what's really cool about it, and I can't wait to talk to you in more depth about it in the future, but it's a movie that's really actually focused on the music when depicting a famous musician. It really tries to put the music that Dylan was making in context, not only of where folk as a genre is at the time, but where America is at the time, and how all of these things sort of influence and grow together. And it just deepens your understanding of so much of the music, as well as why the music specifically was significant, that I thought it did a thing that I look for more of these music biopics to do, and that's like actually sort of show what made this person special in the moment when they were special. I think it's a pretty excellent one. It only occasionally ventures into walk hard territory, and mostly is really, really well done.
I was about to ask you, because when it comes to the walk hard and what it makes fun of, this man did walk the line. That's an epitome for me in terms of music biopics. Up there with it, close.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's close. I would want to see it again before I officially crown it, but like I really dug it. I think it's quite well done. Interestingly, Johnny Cash in this one as well. Boyd Holbrook plays Johnny Cash and is very convincing.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
that might just work. He's due. He's due. Exactly. James is crazy, bro. James Gold does one. It's Logan, blows people away. Then he'll go do something else. Then he'll come. He'll do that Indiana Jones. This might be the one.
Definitely. I mean, look,
this movie showcasing right there.
Yeah, look, there's so much going on for this movie, not just the Timothée Chalamet performance. I think Edward Norton is going to be in talks for supporting actor, playing Pete Seeger. He's so amazing in this kind of like soft voice, sing-songy way. Monica Barbaro was a complete revelation to me, because I was not like super familiar with her work, but is so good as Joan Baez.
Yo, she played Joan Baez? Damn.
Yeah.
She just had her doc too. Okay. Interesting. Hey, I'm rooting for her. Good for her. I thought she was funny in this Paramount movie, and there's no reason I should be watching Paramount movies, but she got the Top Gun push. It's good to see her have over here. A lot of the Top Gun people are moving on up. Right after that one comes out, we're gonna have the Captain America one.
Right.
Well,
right.
I didn't even realize that.
It's almost like they cast that movie really well.
They cast that movie super well, but I don't know if you saw the trailer for the newest Captain America, since we're talking about Best Picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that bad. It's actually pretty good, but
it's decent.
It looked decent. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But no, that's good to hear for Monica. Monica Barbaro. Good for her. All right. Definitely. James Mangold, Timothée Chalamet. What is this? Christmas Day, no?
Yeah, Christmas Day. So coming eventually. We'll talk about it more then. My last in the top 10 for my predictions, the 10 that I actually think will get Best Picture nominations. I finally caught September 5th. I know you talked about it back when you got your Chicago coverage. It is a very solidly made minute by minute thriller. It's, I don't know if this is a compliment or an insult. It might not. It might be both. It might be neither. It feels like the kind of movie that, like, in the mid 2000s, HBO would have made, and it would have cleaned up at the TV Emmys.
Yes, and that's not a bad thing.
It's just that's not really a bad thing. It's like a very sort of no frills, solid, tense thriller that's well acted and has like some interesting perspectives, but it also, like, it's not very overtly political. It's really just trying to be like an on the ground movie, and I think it's effective.
Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed it, bro, because it is 91 minutes. It is probably the easiest movie to recommend, and I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Definitely. So those are the 10 movies that I think are getting in. Let's talk about 5 that are maybe on the bubble. And I saw some people talking in the live stream about this already, but the number 1 movie I got on that bubble is Sing Sing. This is a movie that came out in the summer and was met with absolute rave reviews, because this is kind of like an undeniably moving piece of cinema that really represents so much of like what the power of stories does. It's got this incredible performance from Coleman Domingo at the center, which is certainly going to help that movie's chances. But it feels like A24 kind of hasn't gotten this a lot of push. I don't know if they're like saving it for award season. I know,
yeah, like a secret or some secret push or something, but it kind of feels like it fizzled.
Yeah,
but it's a good movie. I like it.
Yeah, it is a good movie, and like it certainly like should be in the discussion. I just think that like the momentum is maybe dying down on it a little bit. I think sometimes there are these movies that like are really beloved, but it's by too small of a pocket of people to really like break through in that way. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see it get nominated, especially because I think Coleman Domingo has a good shot at a nomination.
I agree with you because there's still all the smaller award things that they'll be doing. And in that lead up from the Gothams to all the Indie Spirits to all those different things, there tends to be a movie that breaks through. I know we have Anora, and I feel like that maybe qualifies for a lot of those. But Sing Sing, if it's not competing with A Real Pain, one of them is bound to. And to me, the chances for Best Picture have also gone down for me, like I've seen it has for you. But I still wanted to secure some acting, dude. To me, it still has a couple spots.
Yeah, Trevor Adams in the left, pointing out Clarence Macklin, who is also a big contender. Yeah, we'll see. It still could get its way back into that top 10 before January. I got The Substance on my list as well. This is not a movie that is at all the Academy's typical taste. Normally, they would like rather shut down the ceremony than acknowledge a horror film. But I think that this speaks to enough things that people within Hollywood would respond to. And it also features these kind of like Titanic performances from a legend in Demi Moore and an ingenue in Margaret Qualley that I think could just keep it on the radar. And they're the people who love this movie really do love this movie. I wouldn't be shocked. I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked if The Substance made its way in. I don't predict it, but
I'm rooting for it.
I'm rooting for it. It'd be cool.
I think is it not the only movie?
It is the only movie we're discussing.
And movie got some movie money. So I think they're going to go all out with this. I think it's going to be a great nomination. I think it's going to be a great aspect of the show. I think it's going to make the conversations around The Substance even bigger at that point, because at that point you've given it a certification. And I think it's a movie that's so bonkers, it's worth it. I think it's a great genre film. Out of all the ones that we've mentioned, we've got musicals in here, and musicals in here. So I do think that having something like The Substance would be cool. Maybe even if it doesn't end up being, but I think Best Picture would be awesome. But maybe a performance as well.
That would be dope. My next one here, I got Blitz. I feel like this one hasn't really been met with a lot of raves, but it is a really solidly made film from a highly respected auteur, Steve McQueen. And weekend must-watch listeners, I don't know if all of you have had a chance to catch up with our recent video where we talked about the best films from Steve McQueen, our Steve McQueen bracket. I do want to play just a little clip to entice y'all to maybe give that episode a watch. We're back for another filmmaker bracket, and this time we're doing it in tribute to Steve McQueen.
I am excited to talk about Bullet, The Great Escape, The Magnificent Seven. It's going to be a great Steve McQueen bracket, bro.
You might have showed up for the wrong episode. We are doing Steve McQueen, just not quite that one. Who is Sir Steve Rodney McQueen, who was knighted by Queen Elizabeth?
You got the Sir?
Yeah, he got a knighthood in 2020. Yeah.
I did not know that.
The Brit has developed a reputation for minimalist storytelling that leaves a strong impact, often exploring challenging real-world histories, as well as the fragility of the human condition.
When I was first getting into watching movies, I searched up the greatest filmmakers of all time, and it showed me a list of like the current best filmmakers, and Steve McQueen was on that list. And the first film that it said under his name was 12 Years a Slave. And that was the first film I watched from him. And I just like fell in love with his filmmaking style and just like the way that he forms stories and expresses with his characters. I just fell in love with every single aspect of his filmmaking style through that movie. And then later on, as the years progressed, I watched a lot of his other movies, and that's kind of just how I fell in love with
it. I think it was literally when I started my first YouTube channel. I went to go see 12 Years a Slave. I walked out of that, I was like, no, this is the best movie of the year. I went back, reverse engineered it all. Shame had just come out. I went to go find Hunger, tried to find all these little tiny things that he had done. I mean, the man has made in our opinion, some of the best movies, and is the reason why we're doing a whole bracket for him.
So yeah, I'm gonna say that Blitz's chances are fading, but they're not completely gone, at least.
But we still hold him in our heart. As I said, the worst thing that can happen to this movie is for it to do an Oscar campaign, in where it becomes the Oscar bait movie that people are saying. And to me, I think he wanted to make this movie. You don't need the Oscar. You already got the Oscar. I still like Blitz. I know it's underwhelming for a lot of people, but it's over on Apple. I'm more rooting for this next one that you have on the list for sure.
Yeah. Challengers, I mean, it felt like A24 was kind of clearing the way to push queer for Luca Guadagnino, and then people saw it and it didn't really connect in the way that you'd expect for it to be like a major Oscars player, and it kind of feels like that's leaving a little room for Challengers, this movie that I think was really widely loved and considered one of the best of the year earlier in this year, and it just not been getting as much of an awards push. So I don't know. I mean, I think now they're maybe coming around to the idea that it could be a player. I've seen some for your consideration events happening. This is just like an undeniably fun movie. I think, you know, in the best version of the Oscars, we get this as a Best Picture nominee.
It's also MGM.
It's also, yeah.
Do they have anybody else on your list? Yeah. Because that's what I see.
They've got Nickel Boys as well, but like I think they could.
No, that's too. Yeah, but that's bad. That's what we're talking about. Once you start seeing a split there,
I don't know. Maybe they put all their eggs in the Nickel Boys basket, but like Challengers is such a different movie as well.
Yeah, dude, can you imagine Challengers? Substance, a complete unknown. Emilia, what bonkers?
There is a possibility that we have like one of the best Picture slates of all time here. I don't think that's what's going to end up shaking out, but like there's a lot of good content.
Insane sex worker movie, 3.5 hour building blocks. What would you call Conclave? House of Cardinals?
Game of Thrones, yeah.
If you know anything, that would be an insane thing. But you still got one more.
One more movie that I just don't think we should forget about, and it's Nosferatu, man. This is a movie that is still waiting to be released on December 25th. I don't know how many people have had the chance to see it. It didn't do the festival circuit like a lot of these other movies. I caught it today. Okay. Yeah, Caitlin went before 4.5 on it, and she's like, I might have to up it to a 5 on the rewatch because damn, dude, Nosferatu is the real deal. I think this might be Robert Eggers' first movie. Excuse me. I think this might be Robert Eggers' best movie ever. I think, I don't know, man. He's always a filmmaker that's impressed me, but this has just got such incredible control over mood, over tone, over ambiance, and the way that it just creates this sense of foreboding, this ominous feeling is so masterful. And just on a craft level, it looks incredible. This movie doesn't feel like it was written. It feels like it was like brought forth from an old dusty tome. I was really just blown away and shaken by his monster movie vision. We're just doing a quick reaction here because I want to wait till you see it so we can talk about it in more detail. But I think this movie is quite incredible, and it's also just this amazing production, like the detail of it, the production design of it, the look of it. I don't see a good reason why the Oscars should ignore something that is so finely crafted. And, you know, they haven't really looked at Eggers in the past, but I just think there's something so classical and amazing about this production. It would be a worthy contender for sure if they would just acknowledge some horror movies, but maybe that's a little too much to ask.
This feels like the horror movie they would, though. Nosferatu, a classic being remade.
And it's also
someone
like, it's not
that they haven't given their due,
sensational or indulgent. Like, you know, the substance, it's great, obviously, but it's also a movie that's very in your face about its horror elements. Like it's upsetting, but this just feels a little bit more like refined in a certain way. Like it's really, it's really calculated, and I don't know, man. I think Nosferatu is excellent. I think it's one of the best movies of the year. I'm very eager to rewatch it already.
Well, I know you wanted to film the best of the year a little early, but if we don't get a screening to this bad boy, we're gonna have to wait.
Maybe you could just pencil it in on your list if you don't see it in time.
My favorite trailer of the year. No, bro, I'm gonna have to wait. You can't pull up on me and tell me this is a 5-star movie. And then say, you might have to postpone it. Zach also said, by the way, now that he's talking about 4.5-star movie, maybe a 5. He's like, I don't know if it's in my top 10. Boy, I don't think you've given it another 10 4.5 stars.
It's on the Challengers level. It's got that 4.5.
Zach's like, it's a masterpiece. I hope it gets Best Picture. Everything I've seen from this feels like it was life was breathed into this, like you said, from like the catacombs of wherever the original Nosferatu was buried. Yeah. I think that he has gone full out. This feels like everything he's done from The Witch, The Northman. What am I missing? Lighthouse, which I know everybody really loves. This is my last. I mean, when we were asked anticipated film, I think I said Nosferatu.
Yeah, this was high on my list for sure.
It has not changed. Hopefully, I see it soon, but I'm so excited. Like, to me, this is what wraps the year, and that's it. I keep forgetting about A Complete Unknown, but this wraps the year. I'm set.
Yeah, dude. Baby Ratu weekend for Christmas is going to be pretty intense. Man, dude.
I saw Baby Girl.
Wait, you did? Did we talk about this?
By accident, bro. No, now that I remember. I mean, you saw like 3 movies by accident, too. Let me see Baby Girl. I'm looking through my stuff because I had gotten an invite for Queer and for Baby Girl. Are you putting this anywhere?
I think this movie might be a little bit too horny for the Academy. If it gets anywhere, maybe Kidman and actress.
Kidman and actress was great.
Yeah. She brings it for sure. I don't know if this is the Academy's taste.
Man, I came home. I was like, all right.
My taste.
And then we were sitting there and we were like, wait, all right. And then we woke up the next morning and we were like, no. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, you know she has been one of my favorite directors. And she continues to kill it, bro. What I thought this movie was not what I thought this movie was. I started wondering about like 3 different ways how to perceive the movie. I thought the performances were fantastic. I think this delivers on all levels. You heard about the cucumbers?
Yeah.
Nasty stuff. This has pretty much become 50 Shades of Grey, but like, I don't want to say art house, but more of a film festival. 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, well, because it like actually, unlike 50 Shades of Grey, I think it actually has some insight to human nature and particularly shame's role in like achieving fruition or sexual pleasure. We have some people in the comments bringing up the Too Horny for the Academy in relation to Honora. Let's get this straight. Honora is a movie about a sex worker. It is not a horny movie. Baby Girl is a horny movie. This is a movie that is about like desire and like kink and
to expand on what Zach is saying is that I saw this at a press screening, and in watching the press screening, there is a moment where the character needs to find elation, and in finding that, it is not the noises that you think of, which are high and mighty. They are grunts. They are literal, just exclamations of release. And I expected all the dudes in the screening to not know what Nicole Kidman was doing. I was saddened, Zach, when I saw all the women go, "What is she? Wait."
Yeah, I saw this one at Toronto.
Zach's not lying when he says this is a movie talking about horniness, like the desire of it. There's one thing that Harris Dickinson does when he tells her to get on her knees, and he laughs. Alina refuses to believe that was filmed more than once.
Yeah, no, it feels so genuine and spontaneous.
It's different.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I saw this one in Toronto sitting next to Amanda, and we're really good friends, but we're not those kind of we're not that kind of friends.
It's different. Honora is about a sex worker, and you say action. Here, I kid you not, Helena must have just told both of the actors, turn her on, action. And like what they do is crazy. It's an uncomfortable movie, and it slights you at first. You don't think you get out of it, and you're like, okay, that happened. But then the more you sit with it, you start realizing what the character motivations are. This isn't. It is a plot movie, but it's more about what's motivating characters to do what they do, and that's a movie for adults. I would love to see it get in there. And we were just talking about Nicole Kidman last week. Man, Nicole Kidman
walks that walk.
How, like, we've seen her in so many different things, and somehow she stands out every single time. Like, I don't fall for whatever she already was. And then I catch her on the AMC ad, and I'm like, still completely different to me. So yeah, Nicole Kidman, she did a fantastic job. Harris Dickinson continues to be one of the standout actors in my opinion.
Yeah,
good stuff. But yeah, I did get to catch this one, a last minute play there. I think it's a solid movie because at that point, we're talking about Nosferatu, we're talking about Baby Girl. Help me, A Complete Unknown.
And I think there's one more even. Is Brutalist Christmas?
Brutalist.
Well? I think Brutalist.
Thank you. Yeah, Brutalist, because it's 3.5 hours. Someone combined the runtime for all 4 movies, and they said, I think I got to start Christmas Eve.
You can successfully avoid your family.
Oh, but yeah, no, we have a great lineup coming up. Zach also has his list up, right? Public, if I'm not mistaken, for his Oscar Best Picture predictions, which you can go check out.
I didn't make it public, but I'll make it public just for you. How about that?
Wow. There we go.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm trying to think of what else I would put from the outside to slip in here, but I feel like you got a majority of them. You know, Nosferatu. We already talked about Gladiator, so I know that's a no from you. You don't see any foreign films, perhaps international films like Seed of the Sacred Fig. I'm trying to think.
It always is a possibility. Seed of the Sacred Fig is probably the strongest contender. There's a bunch of people who think Wild Robot, maybe, but I don't know, man. If some of the classics that we've seen didn't get into the top Best Picture list, I don't know if Wild Robot's gonna make it.
True. Oh, good. Trevor also says Fire Inside is on Christmas. I think that's at home though, but it's gonna be a packed Christmas, bro. We got some really good movies coming out. So I keep forgetting December's kind of packed, bro. There's a Sonic movie coming out. I know someone was joking about Minecraft. Of the year
until we see that.
Someone had mentioned Minecraft, bro. What y'all got? When does this come out? Minecraft movie.
Sometime next year, right?
Is it next year?
It's a Minecraft movie.
Don't you ever correct me again on that. Absolutely not. No, I was about to have you redo your whole list because you forgot a movie. But you've been
speaking
saying
of the A movies.
Not till next year. There you go. There you go. So for next year, we already got our A movie. There you go. Oh yeah, that would have been another one too. Thank you. Life is so rich. All we imagine as light. I'm rooting for it to get the foreign. I don't have enough,
that's the thing.
I barely have enough faith for international on that one.
Well, that's the thing. India did not select All We Imagine is Light, so it won't be eligible in foreign. So some people think that they're going to still mount a campaign to try and get in Best Picture. That's just a real
not
underdog battle. Yeah.
Neon.
Yeah,
Neon.
Right. Yeah.
France.
I think so.
Neon France.
Oh, Titan. Yeah.
No. No? They fell.
Oh,
they fell
Portrait
from
of a Lady on Fire, which
not also... that one either. They fell from the roof.
Oh, Anatomy of the Fall. Yeah.
Thank you.
But that got into international. That's your point, right?
No. France did not submit it. It was not eligible for international, so they ran their
totally
own campaign and ended up not just getting nominated, but winning an award.
Yeah, you're totally right. So I guess it's possible. I just I don't know if All We Imagine is Light is Anatomy of a Fall.
It's not, because if you remember, Anatomy of a Fall got there because of Neon. That even Neon's sister movie, which was Origin, got really upset and called out Anatomy of a Fall because Neon was pushing that one more than that. So I think that's where a lot of it ends up coming out. But the movie that did get nominated is good. It's just not All We Imagine is Light. When I saw it at TIFF a couple years ago, it was called
Santosh, or that's what it's called now, right?
They submitted Santosh. I thought they were submitting. I
I think
something
they submitted
ladies,
Santosh. Or maybe the UK submitted Santosh. I could be wrong about that. You might be right. You might be right. My
it's
bad.
something ladies. I forgot what it was called. When I saw it, it was. It's about like 3 wives that get swapped on the day that they're supposed to get married. It was cute. I wouldn't have picked it as a submission. I would definitely have gone with All We Imagine Is Light, but
Oh, La Pata ladies. Yeah, that's it.
there
As
you
long
go.
as we're correcting
single ladies.
me. Yeah, maybe they changed the title, but it's La Pata ladies.
Yeah, they changed the title, but that's the one. That's the one that played at TIFF. It's funny. Nice. It was on Netflix too. I don't know, maybe some politicking from the back, but yeah. See some other people mentioning stuff.
Correcting me. I was going to say Janus Films is the one releasing All We Imagine Is Light. Just I got that one wrong earlier.
I don't think they got the money for it either.
Yeah,
I just don't.
Magnitude, you said it brought up Amelia Perez as France's nomination.
Yep, that's this year's, which is probably the one place they might score something. Trevor had also mentioned last year it didn't get it because Taste of Things got it, but
Anatomy didn't get it. Yeah, that was last year.
Why does I feel like it was 2 years ago? we get late. We gotta wrap this up.
We've been through a lifetime,
man.
Yeah.
Damn. No, the Anatomy of a Fall came out in 2014. We just covered it in our bracket. Yeah. Well, that is our best picture stuff. A lot of the great movies that we've seen that we recommend that are coming out in the near future. The last thing that I just want to bring up here, just to get it on the record, don't mess with John Watts.
I gotta give him a little more respect after this.
Kind of gotta give him his props.
Yeah.
I look at that. Look, when I think of a thug, when I listen to GNX from Kendrick Lamar, this is what I picture right here. Because this is a man who told Apple to go stick it. That's some East Coast swag right there. Turns out, for those of you who need the refresher, as we've covered here on Intercut, through the news and through the review as well, Wolves was technically supposed to be a 2-parter in where the first half was supposed to come out in theaters by Apple. They have released movies in theaters, like the one Fly Me to the Moon. That played in theaters. Napoleon played in theaters. Several movies play in theaters, and then they'll go to Apple. This got 1 week or 2 that went straight to Apple. And when they announced that, they said, we're doing that because everyone's in cahoots that we're going to make a sequel. Now this man came out in an article saying, I never said that. They lied to me, changed the terms on me, and I told them, don't tell them I'm making a sequel. They released that news, and he released the hardest bar of the year. He said, Apple didn't cancel Whoops. I canceled Whoops. Whatever Whoops 2 was going to be, it has been canceled by the director himself. I didn't know he had it in him. I'm going to have to re-review all the Spider-Man. Man. It is crazy because when you look back, right, everyone's like, the new Spider-Man director did a killer clown movie called Clown. And now we know he's really about that. I never expected me to have to tip my hat to John Watts, but wow. Damn. And you were just saying, man, off the podcast, part 2 is when the movie starts.
Right? Like the movie almost feels like it is leading up to what could be a really cool sequel that we'll never get. I mean, look, I guess, that's one less place that's going to fund John Watts movies, but he could always go back to Marvel, it seems like.
At any point, but that's probably our only news little bit for the week. Let's get into the most important part of the show before we get to the coming attractions and set up our monthly patron hangout.
Yeah. Sorry.
Very good. I was about to say we just take a nap. We just zone out for
like. I was clicking as fast as I could. Big shout out again to the patrons. You see their names on screen right now. Academy level, we are there. Tushar, Caden, Connor, May, Ricky, Joe, Wiley, Benji, Matt, Jeremy, Mike, and Michael, I guess. And the producer level patrons are Toon, Brandon, G, and Josh. Huge thank you, as always, to them, the people who help keep the show going and help keep us talking about upcoming movies. What's coming out this week?
We got one to do a little mini review since we'll be off next week as it is embargoed. So we're not talking about this at all. It's just going to be cut out later. Moana 2. Zach just saw it this morning. I just saw it this morning. Moana, the first one, was a huge success. 2 is okay.
Yeah,
It's still fun, but it's
Mhm.
nowhere near what the first one was in terms of its music, its story, even its characters. But I did not mind the new characters. I don't think any of the new songs were bad, and the animation looks as
Yeah.
vibrant as it's been. It's a good movie to go see for Thanksgiving, but it's not that Tangled, that Moana. It is not the first one. It is just the follow-up.
Yeah, I don't think if Moana 2 came first, people would be clamoring for a sequel, but like it's a decent sequel to Moana now. And as you mentioned, like I don't know, the songs don't hit the same way. There's nothing here that is nearly as good as like You're Welcome. You were just humming the other one before we started recording. Like it's just
I think it
it
was like How
lacks
Far I'll
that.
Go.
Yeah, it lacks that like timeless feeling in a lot of ways. It is the movie has gotten some buzz over the fact that it was originally conceived as a TV series, and then among Disney's
Way.
many pivots, they rejiggered this into a movie instead. And I think maybe you feel that a little bit in the beginning when they are like trying to introduce you to this whole new cast of characters, and they're all like spunky in their own ways. And there's a lot of like putting the pieces in place of like these are the people you're going to want to follow for who knows however long. But like once it finally gets into the back half, and uh Moana reunites with Maui and stuff, like I think it really does start to take off. Like it becomes a little more visually awe-inspiring, and the songs even are maybe a little bit better in the back half than the front half. I mean, by the end I was kind of won over.
I felt the same thing in my theater. Dude, people love Maui. I did not realize that. Like, I know he's a fun character, but people are fans of him. I had some people in the screening that were like the guy who does the one who's supposed to be the muscle for the group, who's like completely infatuated with Maui. There were some people cheering when he came on. People were singing along to his song, and I know that's not even out yet. They're just into him. They love him. I would agree with you that the second half is pretty vibrant, but you telling me about the TV thing, and I'm trying to recall that, it definitely makes a lot of the set pieces feel like, gotcha, that's why they drop a thing here, because they do need to set up. Like, you can't wrap up with the movie. We're barely an hour in.
Yeah.
So they have to set up these other obstacles, which in an episodic mode would have been a lot better, or would have flowed better. So you do kind of see the creases there. Again, I don't have too much to hate, because it's able to still take a lot of the themes from the first one, and where who you think may be the enemy is just someone who you really don't know. And I think that's been a really good through line that they've had in this franchise. And I like how they expand on the characters. It's I hate saying serviceable, because that to me is kind of like an insult, but it is a fun movie.
Yeah. Like it's not a bad time. It's just like when you compare it to Moana, like you can see the disparity. I think something else that maybe hurts it a little bit is that like the villain is pretty vague throughout, and
Who's the
part of it is
villain?
because they're leading up to this like Thanos moment of sorts, but it's just like it robs the movie of something.
We know this has been coming for a while. And this is like Frozen 2 kind of did it, but this is like the first movie to be like, yes, interconnected, bigger world. We are fully well aware that there is not just another movie. There are several movies to come. And it could have felt a lot more jarring. It doesn't feel good, but I enjoyed the movie enough to not have that be a very sour taste in my mouth, because it is the after credits. There is an after credits. And it's very much pushing that. Well, I wouldn't say an after credits, because I stayed all the way till the end, and it was the longest Steamboat Willie I've ever seen in my life. We were all waiting. I was like, is there going to be something here? So the press did not get an after credits for those who need to get back home. But there is something in the mid credits where they do expand on where they want to take it. And I, like you, I don't care for that. Give me a good story to root for. Or even if there was something, I don't know who these people are. Well, what is there for me to build up there? I just still enjoy the adventure with Moana. They've given her some extra family members, which are the simplest way of getting you to just go, but it works. And I still think at the end of the day,
I hate the little sister.
in the lowest way possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you like her?
She's just obnoxious, the way that some little kids are obnoxious.
It's because you don't got siblings, bro. That's exactly how a sibling would be, especially when it's a sibling that didn't exist in the first movie.
That's a good point.
Oh, it is the most, it is the simplest and easiest even cheapest way to get people to go, but it works. And I think it's one to take your family to. In terms of a musical, Wicked or Moana? Like, I want to say Moana if you got a family, Wicked if they're older.
Yeah, like unless you are like a fan of musicals and then maybe Wicked like means a little more to you.
Sure.
I might even say Moana by a narrow margin, but like the songs in Wicked are better. If you're going to a musical for the songs, Wicked, there's no Lin-Manuel Miranda writing the music in Moana 2.
And you feel it, huh?
Yeah, you do feel it.
Yeah. Watch Moana 2 in theaters, listen to Wicked on the drive back, and you're set. You got yourself a Thanksgiving weekend. Other than that, besides Moana, we also have Maria, which is coming into theaters before it gets in a couple of weeks the Netflix release. This is the newest movie starring, what's her name?
Angelina Jolie.
And I hear she's good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Wait, you've seen it?
Yeah, man, this was a New York Film Festival movie.
Top? Well, you don't like Pablo, so now I remember. Yeah, you did bring this.
I'm not a huge fan of Pablo Larraín's run of these movies, and I mean some of them are better than others. This to me was maybe the least of them. But Angelina Jolie is very good. I do have to give her that.
I'm looking forward to that one. Might be catching it at home though, so I'll give the wait there. Nutcrackers is coming home, so you'll be able to see this on Hulu if I'm not mistaken. You did get to see it early, right? I know it's the new David Gordon Green. What am I to ask here? Is he back above C? Like,
yeah, I mean, look, this is probably my favorite David Gordon Green film of the last 5 or 6 he's made. So,
and what does that say?
Not a whole lot. This is a really derivative schmaltzy comedy about the importance of family, and when it works, it's because Ben Stiller is in full Meet the Parents mode, doing the whole kind of anxious stick that he is so good at. But when it doesn't, it's because it feels like that Judy Greer Christmas movie that did really well at the box office. It's so hokey and faux inspirational. So I don't know, man. It kind of a miss, but somehow Hulu decided to pay $10 million for it anyway.
David Gordon Green somehow still getting it out there. It's on Hulu. Sounds like the place to watch it in the background. We've also got some other streaming movies. Sweethearts has got 2 pretty interesting actors in Kiernan Shipka, who I think can have charisma when she's not in Red One, but she has played some really good characters in the past. I just saw this guy in something else recently too. Right here, Goodrich. I think he's decent. He was good in Booksmart. He was kind of funny in Moxie, which I was a little bit split on. Something in me is hoping that this could be a little bit funny. This one's coming to Max. Maybe it fits the rom-com a little bit that you may be craving. If not, there's another one coming out to Netflix starring the one and only Lindsay Lohan. I don't think I've even seen a trailer for this one. I just know it's the new one that's coming out, and she's got a top hot frosty. That's all I know.
Kiernan Shipka, low-key having a huge 2024. Have we talked about that?
I'm gonna pull her up again because I heard someone debate that she wasn't the one in Longlegs. Someone had said, during Red One, they said she's the one from Longlegs, and they said, no, you're wrong. That's not the one from Longlegs. Nah, she in Longlegs, bro. Twisters.
Longlegs.
Totally Killer came out last year, but with TimeCut on Netflix this year, everyone keeps mentioning it.
She's also in a movie that I don't think you had a chance to see yet, The Last Showgirl, and she's one of the best parts of it with Natalie Portman. So she's all over the place this year.
Good for her. Good for her. And y'all don't even realize Sweethearts is going to be the best one to come out of that bunch right there. But outside of that, giving our top picks for the week, we have the one that Zach has said should be a contender for Best Picture, one that I cut out of Chicago. I had it in my top 10. September 5th. It was supposed to come out a little bit earlier. It would have been insane if they would have released it. September 5th, but they're releasing it right in time for the holiday season as the Oscars start to pick up. It is 91 minutes. If you have this playing in your area, it is the easiest thriller to sit through. I know that it's not as political as it comes off, but I don't think that that doesn't mean it doesn't have substance. I've heard people claim that it could answer a question or something, and I feel that's wrong, because not only do I think it answers it, it's not supposed to answer it. It's just supposed to ask the question. And to a degree, it does give you an answer because it's a true story. It shows you how something played out. I think it all works very well. And it's like one of those movies where we're talking about Best Picture, but I don't even know what else I would nominate it in, even though everyone does a really good job at what they're supposed to. It's just they share it so much that I feel there's so many other nominees that can take actors and such. But I think it's a very solid movie. I love the way that it looks, the broadcasting of that era on what is one of the biggest events that has happened in the Olympics. September 5th should be coming to theaters in limited release throughout these next 2 weeks.
Nice.
And then the next one that should also be coming to limited, one that I think, as we've mentioned the Best Pictures, this is one that's getting international for sure, in my opinion. The Seed of the Sacred Fig. I was able to catch it at the Chicago International Film Festival, and it is like a two-parter movie dealing with a lot of the protests, Iran, right? Because this is a movie that's in Iran, but is German.
Well, yeah. So it was, I believed it was filmed in secret in Iran, because obviously it sort of has critical things to say of the government, and the filmmaker has since been exiled. But because, like many international films, it is like co-financed by different countries, Germany is able to submit it as their pick. I think it is Germany,
insane.
right?
Bro, how insane is it that you can't submit it for Iran, so you got to submit it through Germany because of what it's saying about the other? That is insane. Germany trying to get them green points there. And you know what? Hopefully they write it all the way through, because this is an excellent movie. People should definitely watch it. Very good stuff. And that should be coming out in limited release. And then to wrap it up,
I'll double up that pick. It's such an excellent movie. So
it's good.
So
it's great.
suspenseful in the back half.
Bro, I'm back into it. Maybe get MGM Plus. Hey, there was a Black Friday deal. I got MGM Plus, bro. I ain't got nothing to watch but From. There's 3 seasons of this. If you have not caught it yet, it hurts my soul to say, like, get MGM Plus, but they do weekly, like a free subscription for a week or something. Time it when you got a week off, binge From. If season 1 don't get you, then cancel. But I promise you it will. Finish it as fast as you can, because there's nothing else on MGM Plus that I could promote. But they do have a lot of movies. We just catch most of them. There's nothing original on the platform, but From has been worth it. I might as well have just bought the VODs. When I really think about it, I'm renting freaking From, and I might as well just buy it. But hey, it's good. Season 3 just wrapped. I'm catching up to it, and with it coming from the producers of Lost, for those Lost heads out there, they've been trying to pitch this as Lost, but we wrote the ending this time, which I think is cute. It's great. It's I've been into it, and I've been catching up with it. So check that one out as we cut.
I feel like people who love that really love it. People who are in are all the way in on From.
Yeah, I've rarely heard too many negative things about it, other than there's you can't watch one season and then not get a full recap before getting into the next one, because so much weird stuff happens. But I have a screening coming up for this one that you have here, and since it's your recommendation of the week, I'm excited to catch it.
Yeah, coming out to theaters this weekend as well is Luca Guadagnino's latest film that we discussed briefly earlier, Queer. It's a new movie starring Daniel Craig. I almost said Radcliffe, different franchise.
That would have been fire. I would have been there day one.
Right? Daniel Craig is an American expat living in Mexico City in the 1950s, just sort of dealing with a small community of gay expats lounging around Mexico City, experimenting with drugs and the such. It is a really interesting exploration of the human condition in weird ways, and sexuality and love and desire. But it's really like poetic in the way that it's filmed. There's some sequences that are just like visually stunning. In their depictions of intimacy, images that I are burned in my brain. The movie is a real mixed bag that has a lot of like long, laborious stretches and isn't necessarily feel like the most coherent singular idea. He's really reaching for a lot of different things, but it is fascinating. And there's a lot of like incredible sequences in it. I don't know, man. It's not a movie you're going to forget anytime soon. So Queer, I hope people make some time for it when it hits theaters. Another movie that I'm hoping some people make time for that we haven't discussed since it got its VOD release is The Gutter. This is a comedy that I caught at South by Southwest, directed by the Lester brothers, Isaiah and Yasir Lester, about a guy who becomes a professional bowler in order to save his local bowling alley. And it is one of the filthiest movies that I've seen in quite some time. It is absolutely ridiculous comedy that's got so many jokes. It's just incredibly joke dense in a way that reflects like Naked Gun movies or 30 Rock. And some of the jokes are just absolutely hilarious. Shamik Moore is in the lead role. He's very funny. My beloved Darcy Carden is so hysterical in this film. You also have Susan Sarandon and Paul Reiser, who are very funny. Jackie Harry, I really love. It's just a really silly time. Like, it's a very intentionally stupid movie. And if stupid is something that you rub wrong against, and like, this is not the movie for you. But if you just kind of want to put something on and laugh at some of the most ridiculous lines you've heard in some time, you could do a lot worse than watching The Gutter on VOD.
Worth the rental?
Absolutely worth the rental if you were looking for a ridiculous comedy. Yeah.
Oh my word. You'd pay $16.99 for this. Taking it where, Zach?
$6.99? $6.99 I'd pay. 16 maybe not, but $6.99 100%.
But then I don't own it. What if a joke really made me laugh?
Then you got to pony up for it.
I've been looking forward to this one because some of the jokes that you had told me, so I'm very curious to see this one very soon.
Yeah, incredible Sean King joke. And then my last recommendation isn't a movie or a TV show or anything like that. It is a video game. Have you heard anything about Balatro?
No, bro. Where are you getting these video games from?
I don't know, man. I'm going on a run right now. Balatro just got a nomination for Game of the Year from the Game Awards, which a lot of people thought was weird because it is a card game. It is a lot smaller scale than the games that normally get the top prizes. But the thing about Balatro is that it's really, really good, incredibly addicting, because like, it just is so much fun to just go for another run. It's a game that uses elements of poker because they're giving you a lot of cards and you have to play different poker hands. But then there are all these like interesting twists on it because you get these multipliers. So sometimes a 2-pair is worth exponentially more. Sometimes playing a certain card creates another card that changes the color, the suit of all your cards. And it just becomes this really like acid version of poker that is really silly and a lot of fun. It's just very easy to like take 10-15 minutes and get a round of Balatro in. I've really enjoyed it. I'm hoping to get some other people addicted to it too, so I can talk to them about it. But yeah,
how do I download this? How much is this?
So my buddy who doesn't really do video games, I was able to figure out that it is available on like the App Store on your phone. You can play it for $9.99 on your phone. I have it on Steam. It's only $15.
Okay.
I think it's great.
Have you played it on the phone?
I haven't played it on the phone. I don't know how well it works on the phone. I've played it on a Steam Deck. It's pretty good on Steam Deck.
I'd probably play it on the phone, give it a shot on there. All right, we'll see. You gonna catch me during Sundance screenings?
Yeah, hopefully you're fully in by then.
Everyone's gonna be taking pictures of their Wicked Part 1, and I'm gonna be playing Balatro.
One more Joker.
One more, please.
Yeah.
But again, to wrap it up really quickly, I've got September 5th on my picks for the week for this weekend as it gets out on limited release. A really good thriller based off a true story. I've also got The Seed of a Sacred Fig, a fictional movie based on a true story that I believe should be a contender for best of the year, especially for the international category. And then if you got the chance to get a weekly free subscription for From on MGM Plus, please do it just for the show. Nothing else to watch on there, but I promise you it is worth it. Zach Scott?
I've got Queer, the new film from Luca Guadagnino that has some of the most compelling visuals you'll see in a film this year. I've got The Gutter, a new comedy on VOD from the Lester brothers that is side-splittingly hilarious and really inappropriate. And then I've got the video game Balatro, an incredibly addictive, fun card game to play.
And that is all for this week's show of Balatro with Intercut and the
Balatro.
gang. What am I? Say it again.
Balatro. I think you're missing the second A.
Oh, they got me too, bro. I was about to say, I was like, that's a card, Zach, but it is an ace. Oh, they're sneaky with it. Balatro. Balatro. Isn't there a dog called Balatro? Or is that just Balto?
Balto?
Balto's a dog. All right. Well, Balatro, the newest game to hit the streets. I'm gonna have to check it out. That is it for this week's show.
We did it.
You can find more from me at Alamy Movies, and you can find more from Zach
at Zshevich.
Right there. Or find both of us over on Intercut Pod on all social medias. Reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is, and you can catch the live video here on a weekly basis where we talk about Balatro, where we talk about people sticking it to Apple TV Plus, all of those good things, all of the movies, all that jazz. Have you seen all that jazz?
I don't think so, actually. Should we do Intercut Film Club for all that jazz?
We might have to do one because it's been brought up 3 times in interviews that I've heard. And you know what did it for me? It was when the Terrifier director went. Have you seen all that jazz? And
oh damn!
Like the Terrifier. So the Terrifier director, I think, is gonna put me onto all that jazz, which is the highest, speaking of Oscars, awards received of all time, tied, something like that. If you want to hear more about that, make sure you subscribe down below. A big shout out to all of the Intercuties who listen live, all the patrons, we charted this week in the country.
Charted all over the place, but
Balto.
We charted particularly well in Ecuador. We were the #1 film review podcast in Ecuador this week. Huge shout out to all y'all in Ecuador.
Hit it with it. Brazil? No, we were at the bottom. We just do that every week.
Yeah. Your country, we give you the thumbs up. If you chart, you're good country.
Big thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you know that the capital of Ecuador, Quito, is the highest elevated capital for a country in the world?
Fun fact.
Yeah, fun facts. Full of them.
What does that mean? Capital.
What?
What do you mean by that? Did you know the capital is the
capital
highest
city?
Country capital in the world? Like highest as an elevation?
Yeah, like just above sea level. It's the highest, most elevated country capital in the world.
Country capital. Okay. Country capital.
Yeah, country capital.
This is the biggest city in the world. I was like, there's got to be something in the Himalayas or something. All right, well, hey, we have reached the highest of highest, Zach. Congratulations to Ecuador, or Quito, Ecuador. Sounds good.
Yeah, and shout out to Slovakia, Czechia, UAE, Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Poland, Austria, and Switzerland, Netherlands, Norway, Germany, Canada, and of course, the United States of America.
That's a good place. Although a lot of people are leaving it, but you forgot one, and that is Mark, who also got on the Ecuador tweet of the week. I don't know what that means, but shout out, buddy.
Ecuador is on it.
Ecuador, yay. I did not know they were doing tweets of the week, but the more you know, the better. Also, big shout out, Michael. We did an Anora podcast spoiler review that we went through with our buddy. He was on there as well. Shout out for the super chat there. I know he's also got a video up as well to check out some of his new stuff that he's been reviewing, because it's a bunch of movies this week. Zach, it's time to wrap this one up, so then we can go start up another one. For all of the patrons that are out there, make sure to stick around. We're going to jump right after to do the patron hangout. But that is it for this week's show. Until next time, don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow all the socials over on Intercut Pod. And until next time, keep watching movies or you'll melt.
Mustard!
Get the copyright.